Well, everything's rolling, guys. Andrew Hawkins again. He hasn't been on in like almost freaking a year and a half now.
Yeah, 18 months. It's actually pretty much bang on 18 months. It was just after TX2K23 that I came here.
Yep. So people that don't know Andrew, he is Australian, as you could probably already tell.
G'day.
He's a big GTR guy, big stick shift sequential. What would you call it?
Advocate?
Yeah, I was going to say
ambassador?
Agitator. Because you tend to agitate more than advocate for them.
Look, Fred and Cletus deserve that agitation, okay? So let's just be clear on that one.
Exactly. I'm not against it. Hey, agitation in racing is actually very important.
We also call it shit stirring. So, that's the best way to put it, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. That sounds more Australian.
I like it. And you talked about an event you were wanting to do, and now it's here. You got flyers, you got dates, you got track rentals, and it's rolling. There's so much to talk about because there's Australian burnout cars here. There's Australian GTRs coming over, and there's Australians taking over America. So
well, it's just slowly infiltrating from the inside and trying to influence your car scene, but. Man, yeah, a lot has happened. In fact, 18 months ago here was the very first time I ever publicly said I'm looking at doing a GTR Festival USA. That trip, I went to TX2K23, then I came to Orlando, came down here. That was like the reconnaissance trip. That was like the... Can we do it? Can it be done? Where can it be done? Etc.
Are people excited about it? Because that's the other flip side. You can do any event you want in the world.
That's right. But if no one turns up,
you can have a friggin' Super STI event. But
I know. So I kind of. I guess I had a lot of people telling me that you could do it because obviously we're not just wake up tomorrow and decide to do an event. I've been doing GTR Festival in Australia for 9 years. Our Motivevideo might as well be called GTR video at times. I've been building GTRs for a decade. I've been promoting them for 2 decades between Ignition DVD, Motivevideo, magazines. I've just obsessed with GTRs, and the good thing is I've made my passion kind of become a key part of my life. So I guess people said, you'll get support, but you don't really know how much support you're going to get until you do a bit of get over here on the ground and sort of meet with people, and then it just snowballed, man. I decided on Texas because LA people said they wouldn't go to Florida, and Florida people said they wouldn't go to LA, and then I said, but they both said they'd go to Texas, and by pure coincidence. One of my close friends, Davin, who also works for Platinum Racing Products, he actually set up a logistics business to handle PRP and RTEC in America.
Okay.
So that's a place to store all of our equipment for GTR Festival. It's a central location, home base. So Texas kind of got the nod, and then I started talking. I got an introduction to Texas Motorplex. And to hold a festival, it's not just a drag event. If it was just a drag event, Bradenton probably would have been like top 3 places I would have looked at.
Yeah.
But because it's a festival, we have a drifting arena with drift passenger rides and demos and autocross. We've got kids rides and amusement rides. We want to have fireworks. We want to have an elite car show. I want a vendor's alley that's a 1/4 mile long.
Yeah.
With cars all filled through it, and you want that festival vibe. There's even a kangaroo coming. We can talk more about that later.
It's very obviously Kyle Loftus, good friend. It's very Ice Cream Cruise Kyle Loftus like, where Kyle's like, I've been to a lot of drag races. I want an experience, like a thing. Like, even if you don't even watch any drag racing, you're gonna love the event.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing, and I think that needs to happen a little more in racing as well.
Well, funny you mentioned that. The reason I think I got the date or even a spot, because after Houston closed down, Texas Motorplex was like, the queue to get into that place is long. When I got introduced to them by Javier from TRC. Obviously, you need a reference, right? You need someone that makes you go from being, hey, this wild, wacky Australian dude wants to run an event. Oh, who's that guy? Now it's, hey, I've got a good friend from Australia who runs events in Australia for the last 15 years, knows what he's doing. Can you have a chat? And when I spoke to Christy and DeMarcus and Cheeseburger and stuff at Texas Motorplex, the meeting, don't take this the wrong way, anyone watching. Let me hear this bit through. I said to them that drag racing, as you know it, is kind of dead. And they went, okay, we're listening. And I said, the event needs to be more than a real drag event by drag racers for drag racers, which is fine when it's not about spectators and stuff. I said, car festivals are what need to happen if you want to attract the fringe audience. A family that wants a day out, the guy that just has the young kid with a normal car, they don't feel welcome at drag events because it's so far away from where they're at. So by having a festival and having drifting and having autocross and having fireworks and kids rides and car show and DJs and giveaways and all sorts of stuff, you have a festival, that's how you bring a bigger community together. And they basically said, you're exactly right. We do that with our Stampede of Speed. We're very interested. So by almost insulting drag racing in a way, which I'm not, because I obviously love drag racing.
The key,
that's still the central part of it, right?
The event.
The headline act is still the world's quickest GTR versus the world's quickest R35, right? Like that's the headline. So it's not that I think drag racing ain't ever going to die, right? But what I kind of meant from the way, it's not like the 90s anymore. You can't just have a drag event and just hope people will just sit there and watch drag racing. You've got to give them more these days. And in Australia, it's really hard work to keep spectators entertained and bring them to events. And a lot of drag racing events in Australia are saying, how come we can't get a lot of people? While GTR Festival is, at the moment, probably the second largest event at a drag strip in the country, or definitely the second largest event that has drag racing in Australia, right? The only one bigger is Top Fuel, IHRA finals in Sydney, right? So if you take away that, then, we're up there. Obviously everyone, you don't know their exact figures, but so the track, when I heard that, they went, all right, cool. And then they checked up on me. They rang the people that I name dropped and looked at our video coverage, and they said they were really impressed with kind of the ship that we run, the media that we do, etc. And they gave me a date, and I think I got that date in I was here in March. By September, I had a date.
What's the date, just to plug it?
November 15th to 17th.
Okay, perfect.
I should probably even say 14th to 17th, because the Thursday set up and private test day is actually starting to turn into
it's pretty soon,
into an actual day as well. So
coming up quick. So
roll racing on Friday, drag racing Saturday, Sunday, and then there's an event social Thursday night for entrants and sponsors.
So. I was thinking about this while you're saying it, and I'm thinking about the GTR guys in America are very different than a lot of your, even at FL2K yesterday. How many not R35 GTRs were racing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, none.
There's a ton parked up, looking awesome.
Yep.
But the amount that actually drag race in America is very low. Yeah. But then the amount of R35s that drag race is an absorbently huge number of cars. Right. Yesterday, there's dozens of them. Turbo 400 ones, Mac Brosnans and stuff. But then if you go back generations, they're not drag racing as much. So you need the festival to really bring them in to give them a reason to want to be at this thing. They did GTRs in Vegas, and that brings out a lot of people to, right? Is that what it is? GTRs in Vegas?
Oh, there's probably about 10 GTR and Skyline sort of events in America already. There's Ours Day, which is held at a circuit. There was some other thing in Vegas. There's some other Midwest Texas Skyline event. There is a few of them around, but the same thing happened in Australia. There was multiple GTR and Skyline events, but there wasn't one that kind of centralised it and I guess encompassed all of it, brought it together and sort of stepped it up another notch. And I've had a lot of people say to me, if it, I don't like saying this because, the whole toot your own horn thing. A lot of people have said to me, if it wasn't Motivevideo or myself doing it, it kind of wouldn't be able to go that next step. And then I'm just that obsessed with GTRs. I think every GTR rider knows it. They haven't met me. They find out pretty quick.
Anyone that makes parts for a GTR that are, aside from R35, they probably are very familiar with you, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Your connections on the Australian side of GTRs, more talking the older ones, because the R35 stuff's almost like a different...
Yeah.
You almost have to separate the two because they're so different.
Yeah.
Once you're talking about RB stuff, and then once you go to the VR, it's kind of like...
I mean, the badge still brings us together. They are a totally different platform in every way. People that make parts for one, you generally don't make parts for the other at all.
Or tune one, or just I'm not interested in that car at all.
Australia's a bit different. There's one R35 specialist shop has kind of evolved from Evos and Skylines to 35s and V10s. That's precision racing. But the shop that does the world's quickest GTRs at the moment, Croydon Racing Developments, who, here's a plug right here, have the quickest 32, 33, 34, quickest manual and quickest RB powered Pro Mod on the planet.
Yeah.
But they also have the quickest R35 in Australia and the quickest street one as well. So
yeah, I mean, hey,
so we cross over in Australia.
I definitely understand the crossover. I just mean the customer base.
The customer base.
The guy that's racing his R35. might not be even like a big R34 guy.
Yeah,
and it's so weird how that works, because like if you're a Supra guy, you probably like the Mark III and the Mark IV. But then there's this insane disconnect. Oh well, you probably if you have an MK4 Supra, whatever you want to say, MK4 Mark IV.
Yeah.
You probably don't care about the new one.
Yeah, right. And they're totally different, right? That's probably the best comparison. But the other thing that changed was the price point for a long time. In a way, a 35 was, I guess, considered a Japanese supercar, right? So the guy that's buying it isn't the guy that was going to... He's not deciding to get a 35 over an Evo.
Yeah.
He's not deciding to get it over a... he's probably deciding over a 35 instead of a Porsche. Or a Corvette or something. He's probably thinking a little bit further up.
He's looking at like a Huracan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's like, Huracan or GTR, what do I want to build? He's not like R34 or R35. Like, and even like me, I have a 240. Yeah. I'm closer to like an R32 guy than the GTR, than like the R35 guys are. It's so funny how that is, because, I mean, 240s with RBs are more common in the US than GTRs racing. But
in the same way, in Australia, before we did GTR Festival, you kind of had your Western Sydney drag racing GTR community, which is, Matooks and Big Motorsports Mechanical and B2R and Birong and Croydon. They were kind of like in this little world. Then you had like your Skylines Australia forum world. Then you had your sort of collector guys and you had your circuit guys, and they all had an event that they kind of went to, but they didn't all come to one, and that's where I came in. And I think a lot of that has to do with having the YouTube channel Motivevideo, and obviously before that Motivevideo, back when the first GTR Festival was on. And magazines at the same time were dying, so if you wanted to get any media exposure, at one point there I was one of the only outlets in Australia where you could do it. Because I loved GTRs, it was like, if you didn't have, like, guys were selling other cars to get GTRs because there was nothing happening in the other parts of the car community. If you wanted to get like media, fame, whatever your reason was to appear in content, whether it was just for your own personal, that's awesome, or for your shop or whatever, it was like, oh, we better sell our VL and get a GTR, or we're not going to be anywhere. And then when GTR Festival, and we obviously had GTR Challenge at Cootamundra Airport, and once GTR Festival started, it was kind of strange to watch the scene. Like, as you say, like, the saying is, if you build it, they will come. And then that's what happened there. So I'm hoping here in America, it's kind of the same, where a lot of the R35 shops already knew who Motivevideo was. They are aware of the technical videos that we do and have respect for what we can do. And obviously were watching us to see what the 35s in Australia were doing. So it's not like I don't know the 35 guys. A lot of them already know who we are. So now I've got this opportunity to bring together the Skyline community of GTRs and bring together the guys with R35s. And then even like we're having a 2J versus RB versus VR38 category. A lot of the 2J drag racers know us just from our channel, right? Because we do event coverage, and so we've got people in each community that kind of know who we are, which helps us bring them all together, while the guys doing, I guess, smaller events, they're not kind of in that media community, so therefore they don't have that same, I guess, reach or impact with other parts of the community. So
not as well known. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game, is attention, and
it is what it is.
You've built the attention from 10 years ago. It's not like a...
this is not like I woke up yesterday and said, let's do an event. It's 10 years. I actually say to everyone, this is 15 years in the making since I started my own YouTube channel / production company back in Australia, right? Like, it's these contacts. I've been meeting people in the US since 2006. It's not like...
I know. I was thinking about you were talking about people selling to get into the GTR community in Australia. What was the other even communities? Were they LS still? Like, were they...
Oh, probably more people that had VL turbos. Like, so this is before the Barra even probably got big, but like mid to late 2000s, probably late 2000s, early sort of teens.
Yeah.
Like, Rotaries, VL turbos, WRXs were probably more popular in the sort of like that higher end of spending. I'm not saying in general across the stance and car show guys. I'm talking the guys that want to make power.
Yeah.
A lot of them just got rid of their VL, got rid of their rotor, and sort of everyone wanted a GTR. Like, all of Western Sydney just woke up one day and went, I want a Skyline GTR. And
it's a good investment at the time.
Yeah, and then the amount of money they've put into them to beat each other and be the fastest and be the quickest and the sub record, it's wild.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I perpetuated it, but I didn't perpetuate it for my business. I just generally love it. Like, don't get me wrong, you got to make money, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you can make money doing what you love, then that's the dream.
Well, racers are so competitive; it doesn't take much.
No.
You know,
But the media is what helped drive it, and that's the biggest difference with our event versus a lot of other motorsport events. Is I own a production company where I do a lot of corporate back-end work. People watching our YouTube channel don't know about that. So our quality of our work is not, we're not vloggers on a GoPro, which is nothing wrong with, and there's plenty of people do very well out of it. It's not an insult against any of their business. It's just we've had to stick to a television production level because we do that corporate work in the back end. But now I'm so used to it, I can't go back. So having that rare opportunity of being an event promoter that owns a production company and then has a YouTube channel as an outlet as well, how do you compare that to another event promoter? They'd have to pay a lot of money to do what we get to do. So having that sort of ability to self-market every day on our own platforms easily has meant that, growing an event is
well, that's why
easier, and also getting these guys to get on board with buying a GTR has made a lot easier because I had the event and I had the media outlet at the same time.
That's why Javier's events have picked up so quickly, because he wasn't doing events and then all of a sudden he started doing events and they just blew up. I mean, he had one in OSW and the line to get in is like 20 miles long, and I love to see, friends like Javier do that, and it's the same deal. It's like you have that marketing power and suddenly he may not even have realized until he did his first couple events that it was like, oh, wow, we got something here. You just don't know. It was the same when we first did the first Cletus and cars. It was like, well, you don't know if anybody's going to show up, if people care that much, or if it's just like an in-passing thing. And it's like, oh, wow, people actually like this.
Now they're some of the top events in the country, right? Like Cletus is a magnet. Just
bringing Australians over for the same deal. It's like I've had a couple on here. They come over for the burnout stuff and they just want to do a world tour, a U.S. tour of burnouts. And they bounce back and forth coast to coast and stuff. And a little different than coast to coast in Australia. You actually drive through civilization.
Well, my GTR arrived in Long Beach yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So as of right now, I mean, I could argue that it's the quickest Skyline GTR in the US, but Jun 2's in the container as well, so I mean.
You have to actually do it on the soil, though, I think,
That won't take long.
Yeah.
Give me 2 passes.
Okay.
The current Skyline GTR record's 8.9. There's 2 Javier's done an 8.9, and Mike from D Sport and his 33 have gone 8.9. There is a non-GTR Skyline with an auto 2-wheel drive. I think it's gone 8.6 or something. Obviously, R35's a different world, but
how fast has June 2 been?
6:37. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, 2J guys? He did 6:37 with a factory radiator support, an IRS, and a full interior.
Oh, how many qualifiers did you add to that? Factory radiator support.
Yeah, the rad support. Yeah. Now, are you ready for this? World's quickest GTR outright. Okay. World's quickest R32 GTR. World's quickest IRS car, from what I'm aware.
Okay, IRS.
Yeah. The world's quickest all-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive.
And if you want to get really let's make some stuff up in here and just make some assumptions.
Factory radiator support.
Yep, factory fastest radiator support. That is the key to its performance. It's they reckon it could be the quickest car in the world that still uses the factory monocoque. And what I mean by that is the front and rear strut towers are both still there, and all of the, inner metal work, floor pan, firewall, everything. I mean, it's got Kevlar roof, but it's still got the A, B, and C pillar metal. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It's got Kevlar carbon panels, but from the outside, it just looks like a 32 GTR.
So cheatered up. I'll write that on there.
I don't know. It's just it's funny talking about it because it's.
What trans does it have? 400?
Turbo 400.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure there's some record in there for the quickest Turbo 400 on a radial with a full monocoque that has a radial support.
All-wheel drive 400, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt there's another all-wheel drive 400.
It's the quickest all-wheel drive car on the planet, but quickest Turbo 400 with an all-wheel drive. Should we keep going? We'll make a few more up.
I don't know. There's a truck I know of that's pretty fast all-wheel drive.
It ain't 637 though.
It's a 8th mile truck. So
okay.
It's it runs at radial versus the world type of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
It's pretty fast.
Okay, so we're the quickest all-wheel drive down the quarter mile.
Okay, I doubt he's ran it out the back. That would be terrifying, I'm sure.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, what matters to us is the quickest GTR in the world. And for me, and these people on here are going to get pretty argumentative, to me, to hold a record of being the world's quickest GTR, you still need to have that factory monocoque intact with a VIN number on it, right? That's what I think. It should still be all-wheel drive. and it should still like have a GTR engine in it. Like you can't put a, you know, Sunny Race engine in it or something, or you know, put a Hemi in it and still be like. So
it would be like calling, you know, Wasabi Supra.
Yeah.
Like, fastest Supra, like, okay, but it's got a pro-charged Hemi with zoomies out the side.
Yeah, exactly,
like, you know, like Victor Supra, it's like, okay, that's still like an import.
Yeah.
Still got 2J, it's still like Supra adjacent.
I even believe that if you, like I said, for us, world's quickest GTR it's still all-wheel drive, it's still IRS, which is a key component of its DNA. If it had a 4-link live rear end, whatever you want to put back, if you back halved it, is it really a GTR anymore?
Yeah.
I think no. No one has to agree, but I'm the one making the categories here on our event.
Yeah, stock style suspension.
Yeah, and
you know, it's not a Fox body in the rear.
It has to have the like an RB. It can be billet, it can be methanol, it can be all those things.
Yeah.
But you know, George Dodworth's R35.
Yeah.
It's still an R35. It still runs a GR6 transmission, so it has the factory layout for that. We don't care what transmission you use as long as it's still all-wheel drive and, you know. So George Dodworth still IRS and still has the factory monocoque intact as well from strut tower to strut tower.
Yeah.
Even though past the strut tower has its tube front end to hold the nose cone, it's still, the factory metalwork is the same as a road car from strut tower to strut tower, right?
Yep.
So it's still a GTR in our books. So it's the quickest 35 in the world, and Juntu is the quickest GTR in the world.
Yeah,
so.
and he's not on like a radial in that.
He's a slick.
Yeah, he's on a
slick.
But then you look like Mac Brosnan's, that's, you know, turbo 400, not all-wheel drive, solid axle in the rear, single turbo.
Yeah.
Still a GTR. I mean, it's still heavy.
Yeah. Look, I love that car. I love Mac. Love the shop Houston. Do heaps of
Kimbo's
respect
a
for him.
badass car.
Kimbo's a badass car. Is it a badass GTR though? I don't want to answer that right now.
It's a badass VR.
Yeah, look, based on our rules at the event, it goes in GTR Extreme, which means it technically can't win quickest GTR outright at the event because it doesn't meet the criteria to be that. But it doesn't mean it can't come to the event and take out the RB versus 2J versus VR38 shootout and be the quickest car there and, you know, go rounds and win prize money and be the star of the show. It doesn't mean you can't do all that. It's just, where do you draw the line? And we for our categories, and I guess what most people consider a world record, drew the line at it's got to kind of be IRS all drive and monocoque intact to kind of still be that car.
Well, a lot of people, I think they confuse this. They're like, oh, the too many rules ruin racing. It's like, well, all sports have rules.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing basketball, you can't just punch the guy in the face.
Well,
and just toss the
you
ball.
could.
And I mean, yeah, but like,
but
you know, you gotta work within.
Wouldn't last long, right?
You gotta work within the rules. Like,
there's rules everywhere.
Same deal. Like it's the rules. Like it's what makes it a competitive deal.
That's right. If we let everyone do whatever they want, like, you can already imagine there'd just be pro mods beating every car at every event in every category ever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't build anything else.
Yep.
But we want to build cool stuff and different stuff and have oddball combinations, and like making a Skyline GTR go fast is in some ways completely counterintuitive to any form of intelligence.
Yeah.
There's a point at which they're awesome as a mid 8 second low 8 with a manual or low 8s with an auto. They're sick cars. But once you get into like, I want to run 7s with a manual, it's like torturing yourself. Like, it is hard work. There are cars out there that are way easier to do it with, but once you're in love with a certain car and it has its appeal and that special thing about it, and you know, it's got cult status, you just don't care. You want that car to go quick. And we see it in every area of drag racing.
I've had this conversation with some of my Supra friends though, and I'm like, because they, you know, Mark IV Supra, it's a car that's just going up in value, and I'm like, like they start to like get to this point where they're like, oh, it needs more cage and it needs more cut up here and cut up there, and I'm like, man, you could stop now. You could stop and get a Mustang or a Camaro or something that nobody's gonna care about in 20 years and cut it up.
Yeah.
And do whatever you want, but like, you might be mad at yourself in 20 years that you just cut up a car that might be worth, I mean, we've seen some go for almost 200,000.
Crazy. And the Skyline world's the same.
Yeah. So like, you start to get to that point where you're like, is it worth it?
In Australia, I guess the only thing is in Australia, I guess in terms of the chassis itself, you're welding a cage into it. But outside of that, a lot of guys in Australia are pretty careful about how they modify their GTR so that it, in theory, is kind of reversible. But
the snowball happens.
Yeah,
though.
but why should 1,000 horsepower, well-modified GTR from Australia, why should that be worth less than a stock one? Like, it's a sick car. Like, these demo cars from Japan are holding value more than stock ones. Why shouldn't a well-built Aussie one hold its value as an extreme version of one? Like, this whole mentality of, oh, it's got to be stock or it's not a piss off. Like,
you don't want it
collect
molested.
whatever you like, mate. Like,
You don't want it molested, you know? You want to be the first.
no, I want to molest the shit out of it. Like,
yourself. You don't want someone else to do it. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's like 50 shops that you could be like, I would not buy a GTR from that shop.
oh, well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it starts to narrow down, and then the more you're like, it's the same with like the Huracan and R8 world. I used to think all these shops were really good, and then I started like talking to more and having more people on that build these cars, and like I start to realize how many good ones there are, and it starts to funnel down, and it's like, I thought there was 50 good ones. There's like 2, and even now I'm like, oh, maybe there's not even 2. It's like maybe they all suck.
Funny you mention that is when I'm in Australia, everyone has this impression that, oh man, in America there's so many big shops. I'm like, there's a lot of in the middle shops, but like premium, like the ones who have the recognition globally, like we've heard of them from overseas, from Australia. I go, all right, list them. How many big 35 shops can you list? And they start listing them, and they're like, oh, you're right. There's less than 10 that I can, off the top of my head, go. It doesn't mean there aren't other guys out there. I'm just saying, as someone from Australia, if you say to me, list the top 10 R35 shops in America, I can't even get to 10 off the top of my head of ones that I consider like really good. I know all the parts manufacturers as well, but I mean just like the guys that do it. And that's the thing, is that misinterpretation, like you just said, is you think there's heaps, and then when you start thinking about you there, the top of the pyramid is small.
It's the same with like, okay, you're going to get an RB built. There's probably a lot of people that do it, and like, okay, I'm going to do a built RB, but then when you start like, okay, who's going to do it? Okay. You know, like, I'm going to build an LS. Okay, who's going to do it? This guy, that guy, that guy. And then you start narrowing it down, and you're like, there's really only like 1 or 2 that I really want to touch it.
Yeah.
And it starts narrowing it down, and it's the same like when you're not in the world, you don't realize until like, same with the 2J. There's a couple shops that I would have touch it.
Yeah.
Fast forward race engines, pretty much the only person I would want, like I would really want to touch the 2J.
5 years ago, if you said to me, you got to go build a GTR in the US, who would you get to build it for you? I said, I just wouldn't build one. At all, the end. Just there's no one in the US that I would say, let's build a Skyline GTR together. That has changed, definitely has changed. And there is and it's growing. There's just more and more people as they are getting better at it, more experience at it. But the key that I found out, the reason why probably the Skyline GTR community hasn't kind of exploded quicker in terms of the modified and racing it side is 2 reasons. One is, I guess, you need to have enough people with enough money to want to go fast. The R35 community was not short of rich people who wanted to be the fastest for a long time there. It's tapered off now, but like you asked Tony from T1s, like, do you want to work on a Skyline GTR? He's like, no, I've got all these clients with R8s, Lambos and R35s with huge budgets. I'm not going to stop and work on a Skyline GTR and try and catch up on 20 years of development with one customer, right? Yeah. Like it's, and then, you know, I've got 10 formulas in my head that I can write down right now for every level from 400 to 2,000 if you want. But people here just haven't done it yet. And then there are a couple of workshops I would trust to kind of do 1,000 horsepower GTR, but they still haven't done it, but they need that right customer to come along who's ready to be patient as they trip over a couple of times.
I was going to say, but, you know, Tony's got a formula on an R35. So, like, he knows how much profit it's going to make. His engine guys don't have to do anything they're not doing. His fuel system guy, the turbo guy, like they're not. Nobody's doing something unique when they just like pump out an R35.
That's right. And the thing is, everyone's right. We've had GTRs for ages, and that arms race in the GTR world in Sydney was fierce, for the last decade. Like, it's tapered off a little bit now, but I'm talking a little bit. But at one point, it was fierce growth. But now we're all such high horsepower, it plateaus eventually, right? Like, we've plateaued at this, like, a GTR street car on ethanol with an interior, a stereo, air conditioning, full factory panels makes 1,500. It was like 1,000 was like, oh man, you got 1,000. Now when you say I got 1,000 horsepower Skyline GTR in Sydney, they're like, that's cute, when are you going to modify it? Like it's, and I'm not saying every one of them's like that, but there's still plenty of like 400 to 700 horsepower stuff, but there's a lot.
Well, that's the joke with like a
ones.
Supra.
Yeah.
It's like they all make 1,000.
Yeah.
They all go 9s at 180. You know what I mean? It's
Well, it used to be 12s at 140.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's 9s at 180. Exactly. Because like you see, like most of them aren't, you know, if you got a manual trans, you're not going to try to kill it on the...
Yeah.
Nobody wants to buy a new V160.
Oh, no. So, I mean, 34s are the same, right? Like the parts out of a 34 GTR now, the gearbox, the Getrag used to be... I got mine for $5,000 back when I did a 6-speed swap to show everyone that the 6-speed box with 411s and a 32 and 33 is like the best modification that you can do for a GTR, right?
Well, I would say what made the cars really faster, 50% is ECU technology, 50% is turbo technology.
100%.
That's it. Like boost control and turbo has completely boomed the market.
Changed everything.
Engines, you know, engines have been being built forever.
Yep.
Like fuel, it's not a whole lot different. It's ethanol.
See, I mean, once E85 kind of hit the market, power went up 30% instantly the next day across the board, right?
But tuning and turbo technology here has been the biggest, I would say, improvement.
Hey, we're the home country of most ECU brands, right?
Yeah.
Think about what comes out of Australia. Motec, Haltech come out of Australia. Mtron comes out of Australia. Microtech. We used to
Link
have Ultronic.
Comes out of
Link's New Zealand.
Yeah, and they're owned by Haltech, I think, right?
No, totally separate still.
Oh, I thought they were working together.
I mean, a few companies have worked together and stuff. Ultronic is the one that got bought
Turbo
out.
Smart's out there.
Yeah, making turbos now too. So
yeah,
which was really interesting. They actually stayed away from making their own turbos for a long time because their attitude was everyone can use our boost control product, right? But then obviously turbo manufacturers started making boost control products, so Turbo Smart kind of went, oh, stuff it, we're going to make turbos. Like it's
they unveiled them at PRI last year.
And SEMA as well. Yeah,
I think they're HP turbos. I think they work together on that.
Well, you know who we obviously know who the owner is.
Yeah.
So, but was he involved with Turbo Smart ones? Anyone that's involved with Turbo Smart's not allowed to officially say anything, but he was at SEMA with them, and you can kind of, I think everyone's kind of worked some of that out.
Part numbers cross over very similarly on a lot of things.
But then again, if you were going to make your own turbos tomorrow, who would you call? Like, how many people could you call tomorrow and say, come and help me design a range of performance turbos to go into performance cars, not into factory deep, turbo diesels?
Yeah.
Who are you going to call? It ain't Ghostbusters. No. Sorry, that was a terrible
not many
dad
people.
joke.
There's not many people that know turbos.
Exactly.
That well.
So you need someone that knows what they're doing with that stuff. So.
And then you need the right car to put them on to test them. You can test it on a bench all day. Yeah. But like, it needs to be in the world. It needs to go down the track.
There's new turbos coming everywhere. Garrett, you saw new turbos released at FL2K. They've got their spec size stuff.
To me, still seems like Precision is impossible to beat. Their next gen stuff is, and not just because I run a next gen, but their next gen line is so freaking good.
It is.
Like when Brett LaSala I got a bell for him. Like when they put
You managed to get his name into a GTR-based podcast.
I know.
Well done.
I know. I did it. He worked at Real Street, though, so, he did some GTR stuff. But, like, they were one of the early testers on the next-gen stuff, and it was picking up hundreds of horsepower from same size.
Croydon just did a 35 GTR that tried to go from, like, what was it? I think they went from like a 76 mil or 76 75s or something, and then tried to go up in size. It didn't do much. Then went down to like some new next gens and picked up like 800 RPM and picked up 100 horsepower. Like it was just wild. Like
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the spool time and like still making more power. Yeah, it's nuts. Like I was talking to Jay about it. Obviously Jay, everybody knows him.
Hi Jay.
We were talking about like turbo size and. When you build a Supra 10 years ago, you need like a 96 to do what you could do with like a 68 now.
That's right.
And it's like,
wild.
It's more responsive, it makes more power, and it's like a better driving car now.
Yeah.
And you don't need some super giant mother thumper, whatever they would call it at the time. Like
I remember the idea of putting anything bigger than like a 68 mil on a GTR, you knew it was going to be a pig. But I got a G45 1500 and turbo technology. And I think all the turbo brands that are kind of leading the way at the moment all make great stuff, and their design philosophies are a little bit different. But like the G45 1500 on mine, 3.2 litre, we have to pull mid-range boost out of it so that it doesn't want to tear the entire drivetrain apart from mid-range torque.
Yeah.
Or crush the bearings or lift the head or whatever. So like, and it makes 1,000 on 26 pound with less than 1-to-1 back pressure. It just drives around on that all day.
Crazy.
And it ain't a pig. Any 1,000 horsepower GTR 10 years ago was a pig. Now, man, it's like things wild and it's so drivable. And it's just what turbo technology has changed.
Yeah, you're not just flooring it for 10 seconds until it hits.
I can do the old and like fully bog, like completely bog, like and then go and go 9.4 on a car that normally goes, probably like an 8.8 on that power level. It can just like bog and rip back and still do a bottom, mid to low 9. Like if you bogged with an old T88 or 251R, you were doing a 22-second quarter mile. Like that's how long that stuff took to came back on.
Well, even my car yesterday, I have the 86 next gen, and it spun off the line, and I gathered it up right back into it, and it's just like, and we use a little nitrous to motivate it, but like it's still so quick to get back onto it.
You can pedal them.
Ran down a twin turbo Coyote car. I was right next to him the whole time. Yeah. After spinning with a 2J car, and keeping back up, which is not like
10 years ago you couldn't do that. If you lifted at all 10 years ago, you were done.
Yeah,
race was
even
over.
5-6 years ago. Because like they're so much better now. It's unreal. Like people don't realize like you really got to keep up with turbo technology on these cars.
That's why when I hear people they want to fit turbos to GTRs for like from the early 2000s, I just look at them and go, I get it. T51R from HKS, T88, even the old HKS low mounts. Like I get it. Like they're cool, but man, they're junk to drive. Like they've got heaps of nostalgia. But if you just want to park at a car park, show it off, and give it little hits as you drive around, I suppose that's fine. And I would love to put HKS T51R old school turbo on one of my GTRs one day. But my engineering brain wants to get from point A to point B as fast as possible.
Well, you seem like you have the internal struggle of you love the history of the GTRs, and I know you're deep into all that.
Yeah.
But then also the future of it, which is like a whole, obviously they're very split on which one you go towards.
There's a lot of that happening.
But there's a cool historical, like period correct car. But then there's like the, Victor does it at induction where he's like, a modern 2J setup looks so good.
Oh, I know.
But then I'm not really a big fan of like a bunch of carbon fiber on like some Supras because it's not as period correct. I like just like
I struggle, man. I walk into like HD Works and RAV Performance are probably the two shops that I think are blending old school and new school really well. But like I walk into a Japanese tuning shop and see like, remember the clear, like almost like garden hose, clear breather hose. You've got like instead of an AN fitting, it's actually just like fake braid going over a rubber hose, blue silicon vacuum line everywhere, and a T88 with a Greddy plenum, and you're like, part of me goes, yeah, it's sick. And I think about it and go, nah, it's going to drive like it's...
Yeah, it's all wrong.
It's all wrong now. Like it's all wrong, but it's so right at
we
the
live
same
in the
time.
future.
I know.
You don't have to do this.
Torn every day. And my engineering brain usually wins, and it's like... But if you look at the Western Sydney GTR engine bays, actually all of Australia now, engine bays, man, they are just... Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we just didn't compete with each other on the track. We compete with each other if who can build the cleanest, tidiest, customized engine bay for one. And they're wild now.
I always say like a best engine bay looks like the car wouldn't run. Like you don't see the wiring. Like it's like, oh, the car's not wired yet. It's not plumbed yet. It's like, no, it is. And it's like, whoa.
And I actually did the snowball effect late last year where I kind of went, well, if I'm taking my car to America, I can't go there with an engine bay that's been cut and shut for the last 10 years of development. I stripped the whole engine bay, billet dry sump from PRP, all new AN lines from Raceworks, just rewired it, Nexus R5 from how, just went down that rabbit hole and made my engine bay look like I needed to come here with an engine bay where you go, okay, that's an Aussie GTR engine bay. And then they make, thousands of horsepower to back it up. Jun 2 did the same, gave the car a birthday, ready to come here. So they've both come in pretty fresh and ready to rumble.
Is there any other countries coming here? Because I look at, I don't know, Ikanu.
Is Canada considered another country from America?
Yeah, I definitely don't consider them American. Not any Americans.
All right, here we go. This is plug time for what's coming. Okay, so we got 3 cars from Australia that are maybe a 4th getting air freighted at the last minute that's built by B2R, but the customer's American.
Okay.
So that'll be like just a typical 1,500 horsepower street car.
Just your basic. Yeah.
Just a basic Sydney GTR.
Your generic.
Yeah.
Drive to work.
Yep. Yeah, just, just drive it to roll racing, then go get a kebab afterwards. No problem.
Yeah, kebab, whatever that is.
So it's 3 or 4 Aussie ones. So obviously my car, which is obviously watched on our YouTube channel for the last 13 years. So that's why it's important to bring that. Jun 2, World's Quickest GTR. Andrew Hannison's bringing an R33 GTR that's like what we call like a complete build car. So it's like built by legends, things like that. He builds complete cars, and this thing's amazing. It's an R33 N1 400R Tribute. Makes nearly 800 horsepower still though. So it's like looks like one of those complete builds that you think is a museum piece, but typical Australian GTR. It's still going to make 800 horsepower.
Got to have the punch.
Sakamoto from Japan, his R32 carbon wide-bodied car is now tuned, makes 1,000 and a bit, so he has to race me at GTR Festival. So Gretti's going to bring that. There's also his carbon R33's new one's going to get unveiled at SEMA. That's going to come to GTR Festival, so 2 cars from Japan. And there's actually a bunch of famous GTRs that are ex-Japan that are coming as well. So HKS are bringing Jordan owns it, T002 HKS demo car. Gretti are helping bring the S-Rock R33 demo car. Built by Legends are going to have 2 34 GTRs Built by Legends there. So there's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Guys from RMC in Miami probably going to bring a couple of rare things. There's an ex-Top Secret 34. So we're actually bringing together a lot of these famous GTRs that have kind of been dispersed around the US, are all going to kind of come together for this one event. So from the Skyline GTR world, it's going to be pretty cool. There's a lot of shops building cars for it, which I think is a sign that your event is doing what it needs to do. If once people build cars to get ready for your event, I'm actually pretty stoked that the first year we're doing this that's already happening.
Yeah, I'm sure that feels good because it's nerve-wracking having an event. And
oh, dude, it is. I hate talking about money with the event. But at the end of the day, it's a huge risk. I've spent a couple $100,000 before I even pay for the event itself. I'm talking flying over here, marketing, research, editing, everything you've got to do. And I joked to someone yesterday, I go that this is like going into a casino with 50 grand. You get down to your last $500 and you go, give me odds that are if I win, I get it all back and make some.
Yeah.
And it's
every event promoter is always I don't wish this on anyone.
Yeah, right.
They all say it. It's not.
It is.
I talk to all of them.
And the thing is, I think that sucks is when you have a big one, and there's it's packed, it does everything it's meant to do, you get that dream event, everyone looks at you and goes, oh man, you killed it, you must be rolling it. I'm like, yeah, but I just back paid the 3 events that lost money. So it's you've got to risk. If you want to win big and get an event where you kill it, man, you've got to risk big. Yeah. So just remember, for every one that you win big, that you could have 3 that didn't. And
I got a buddy, he was like, yeah, we've been doing this event for 12 years. The first one, I cashed out my 401k to make sure I had enough payout. And it worked out. It was the risk. He was like, I
spend every dollar I have.
Because he guaranteed payouts. And
yep.
He was like, if no one shows up or if everyone shows up, I guarantee payouts.
Yeah, I spend and risk everything. Yeah. Every event, every single.
That's how you got to be. You got to push all the chips back into the table, or else the event's it's going to show. Yeah, it's going to show.
And that's the thing is, I want the first GTR Festival USA. I don't want to risk little and just have a little one.
Yeah.
We're coming in wrecking ball. Let's go big and that's why I just wanted every element. Plus, if people are watching GTR Festival in Australia, they're expecting the US one to have the same. They're expecting there to be, the top GTR shops drag racing. They're expecting to see the DCT class with big Lambos against GTRs and, an RB versus 2J versus VR38 class. They're expecting to have drifting, drift rides, autocross. We're going to have kids rides there. Brooke with the Alpha Princess is going to bring a remote controlled GTR to do a pony ride, but in a GTR for kids.
That's funny.
They're expecting parties and DJs. There's an elite car show. There's unveils of new builds. There's a show and shine and a car meet. There's fireworks. You got roll racing and they're expecting all of that from watching the Australian one. So I have to deliver all of that here.
It sounds like it's also got a little Japanese underground, because I always have the vivid pictures of that, the highways in Japan where everybody goes, that kind of stuff is always cool. And GTRs in the US, obviously, I've said bring out that crowd a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Less than the drag racer crowd, the Skylines at least.
I find that as much as I love drag racing events, a lot of drag racing events are so focused on the drag racing that like a car show guy now just goes, I'm not going. I can get just as many Instagram likes at Cars and Coffee. And I don't have to feel second fiddle to the drag races. But at least when it's a GTR festival, it's like we're all here under that one badge as opposed to here for one sport, if that makes sense.
You know, FL2K used to have like a car show parking. You couldn't fit a single car in that event.
No, that's
you
right.
could, of course they couldn't have car show there.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't fit anyone else.
Yeah.
It was so packed at that event. They were at the Freedom Factory. Both overflow parking lots were full.
That's 100%.
Like, huge, I mean, shout out to Victor because that event was unreal, and obviously got rained out today, but they really made that work with making the right decisions. And I was worried that they were going to try to do Q3 yesterday, and I'm so glad they cut Q3 because there was no shot. It was impossible.
It was impossible. It took 9 hours to do round one.
Yeah.
And that's no one's fault, but I will say this.
It's no one single person's fault. It's many of people.
Yeah. And planning an event, I hate to say this because some people might think, they don't agree, but planning events actually not the hard part at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I've done it long enough now that I can literally, you could say to me, hey, Andrew, do you want to hold an event for XYZ at this track? And by the end of the day, I'll have a plan, right? What's hard is fixing that plan when it don't go to plan. Like fixing things on the fly and adjusting schedules and fixing problems. That's when a good event promoter shines, is their ability to fix things on the fly, because that's where the hard work is. And having a good team under you as well. And speaking of that, I'm bringing my team from Australia, so you want to know about spending money.
Oh, yeah, I bet. How are they with camera equipments and stuff coming over? Because I know my buddy had to go to Canada, and he had to put a deposit down on every single thing.
Yeah.
And he would get it back just because they were like, you better not sell it in Canada.
Which is ridiculous because, I suppose going from America to Australia, they'd probably more likely to want you to have a carnet because you buy it for less, right? But from Australia coming here, my response to someone at customs is to go, are you fucking retarded, mate? Why would I take it to America to sell it for less than I can get here?
You are speaking to a government bureaucrat, so the answer would probably be yes.
I guess
I'm actually required to be an idiot, so sorry.
Look, if they make us pay a carnet, they make us pay a carnet. But I'm actually only bringing one cameraman from Australia. It's my event team that I'm bringing over, which I hate to say, I need them, right? And I don't mean that in a way, it's like I don't know what I'm doing. It's if you don't have a good team behind you to help make it work, who understand your event, understand the event promoter's mindset. Like, my team know what I want to happen. They know the vision, they know all of it. And a lot of my event staff, they don't work like in events full time. They work at my events and some of them have for 20 years.
Yeah. My
best mate's my operations manager.
Yeah.
And I have to trust him with my, everything.
Well, you look at an event like Summer Nats and,
Yeah.
They have a insane infrastructure just
huge.
to make that happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible what they can do. And it's the same with like some drag and drives in the US or Tom Bailey is now pretty huge on that deal. He's got a huge team to make that work. And we were just talking about it the other day of like events shutting down, and if an event wants to be a thing and they have like a guy that, I got the money, but like I need a promoter.
Yeah.
You can't you can't just find somebody for that. It needs to like come from within, basically. Like, I need to be the promoter of the event I want to host. You can't just like start a business and hire the promoter type of thing.
Well, the thing about this GTR festival, I think a lot of it has to do with there are people who have been like on the fence or don't know about it, and I meet them, and I'm pretty sure that after a 15-minute conversation, they realise, man, you're sick in the head for GTR. Like, they see that passion. You can't fake the passion that you have for something and how excited you are about it, how much you want to do it, how much it means to you. You can't fake that. Like, no matter how good a salesman you are, and no one can sit there and go, oh, that guy's just in it for the money. It's like, no, dude, I've been like slogging it with GTRs for decades. Like, it's...
I always joke with like doing the long podcast that I do, like, it'll boil out. If somebody's being fake or if somebody's lying, like, in an hour and a half, it's going to boil out. You can't fake it for that long. No. You can't put on a show for that long. Maybe a 10-minute video, like a 5-minute clip. But long enough of a conversation with someone, it boils out.
Man, you could interrogate me about GTRs for the next 10 hours. It ain't going to stop. But you're right, someone that... And like I came back to what I said earlier, there are a lot of people who have said to me, if it wasn't you doing this, we wouldn't support it. We know that what you are going to do with this long term. We know your passion for it. You know you're not going to disappear. We've seen what you've done in Australia. Like another event promoter couldn't wake up tomorrow and go, I want to cash in on the GTR popularity and do a GTR. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. So I was thinking about your license plate on your GTR. What is it, Jet 1, Jet 2?
I've got Jet 200 is my time attack car, and Jet RH9 is the plates on my GTR.
And it throws people off because you were a fighter pilot, right?
I wasn't. Well, I was accepted as a pilot in the Air Force. Did my engineering degree at the Australian Defence Force Academy. I got out before I finished doing all the pilot training. Not because I failed, just Air Force wasn't for me. Okay. To be honest.
Yeah.
And I had my pilot's license when I was 16, and still love fighter jets, and still got heaps of mates in the military.
I mean, every man sees a fighter jet and they're just like, oh man. You could be the most anti-war person in the world. Yeah. You could be the most anti-war person in the world, like killing people, but then you see like a fighter jet or like a B-2 and you're just like, oh, hell
get some. Yeah.
Because it just always hits you like that. Like when you go down to Vegas and you see them just flying over all day, they're just
it's the best.
Doing laps.
Yeah.
And part of you is like, oh, that's my tax dollars. But then the other part's like,
take it. Take those tax dollars.
It's cool. I'll chip in for that.
Let me distribute my own tax money. Put it all on fighter jets.
All into the Air Force because it's cool. Yeah. And then you see like a boat go by to like a ship and you're like, oh, hell.
Dude, I visit every aviation museum in every town I go to, I think, because I love it. So my production company is called Jet Multimedia. So the jet plates, and that started because I had Jet 200 plates back in like 2003.
Well, it's even funny because, Americans probably don't think of Australia as like Australia is like a very big, like, well, they got an army, they got an Air Force. Like, we only think of American military because it's so goddamn big and expensive. Yeah. But there's people in Australia doing the same thing.
Yeah, man.
Maybe just not as much.
We align probably 70% of our equipment and military with the US.
Makes sense.
So we had F-18 Hornets, F-111s. We had Mirages from France before that with bizarrely. But now we've got Joint Strike Fighter. We've got Super Hornets. So that's basically Super Hornets replaced F-111 in the interim, and JSF has come in to replace all the legacy Hornets. We've got Black Hawk helicopters, we've had Seahawk helicopters, so a lot of it. But we also have like stuff from Europe as well, so it's not all American. But I'd say 70%. Some of our army, we have some of our own stuff. We also have M1 Abrams as well. So it's a bit of a mix, but mostly American stuff to integrate, obviously, then with you guys as well. We do a lot of operations and
makes sense.
And
I mean, you guys were a part of Iraqi freedom and things like that.
Yeah, we're in the first Gulf War we're in. Been in Afghanistan, everything. So I have a lot of.
Been, right?
Yeah, I've got a lot of buddies from over here that have done training exercises in Australia and sort of all that. In fact, there's a lot of GTRers in the military. Skyline GTR, not just guys that were based in Japan that brought them back. Just I don't know, they seem to be pretty popular in the military.
It's funny because people get stationed at what's the island?
Osaka, I think it is.
Off Japan, and then they're just like scooping up all the GTRs, and the military's like, we'll put one car on the boat for you, send it back, and everybody's like, perfect.
Yeah,
I got a buddy that was stationed in Germany, and he brought back a S197 Mustang. I was like, brother,
what are you doing?
Come on, man. He's still racing it. He was racing it yesterday. Like it's a fast car now, 6-second car. But I was like, you could have brought back anything.
You brought back anything. You brought back an American car. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you could have brought back any car. And he's like, I drove it on the Nürburgring and all this stuff. I was like, any car.
Yeah. Did you not hear what I said? Any car.
Any car. As much like a Mustang.
Yeah, I suppose it was probably rare in Germany, right? So maybe that's why it's
so funny though.
But the military thing is awesome. And I actually look after military at our events, military discount on the day, and try and do whatever I can. I've had military do activations and displays at our events and things like that. So I'm always supporting that. And a lot of buddies over here are military. Like if you looked at how many Skyline GTRs are coming to the event and looked at how many are military, you'd probably like, damn, that's a big ratio. Like there's a lot. Even like one of my buddies I met, and obviously GTR, where you meet people everywhere. I still like going to GTR meets and things and hanging out. I don't sort of do the YouTuber thing and sort of stay away from that. I immerse myself in it as much as I can and made friends with a guy that's a Navy SEAL instructor in San Diego. Came to a GTR meet in LA a couple of years ago and we've stayed buddies ever since. He was just in Australia. So
I always joke I can usually spot military background when like you're walking through and you see the guy like at first pass is cleaning his wheels. he folds his race suit right onto the roof, you know, like you can usually tell because they're like disciplined like that, but like a minute way, like
little things.
Like I don't care if my wheels are clean before I'm about to go make a pass, but I don't know if they care either, but it's just like ingrained into them that they're just like, oh, you got to make sure it's wiped down, got to make sure this is folded, like it's pretty easy to spot.
I mean, fast jets, fast cars. Goes together,
and
right?
the discipline of it too.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it, and like I said, I look after military as best I can, and like I said, a lot of friends in military across the country, so yeah, it's good. So it's hard. So there'll be on the day military discount at GTR Festival for
that's cool.
all military. Because the problem is it's hard to do online because you got to show ID and.
Yep. There's a lot out in Texas too.
Oh yeah, dude. Someone was telling me that just in Dallas Fort Worth, if you went to a military base there, how many Skyline GTRs are hidden away there? Huge.
Well, DFW could be its own country. It's so large.
They want to be.
Yeah. Like it's so big. Like you overlay it over like Manhattan and like other large cities, and it's just like this gigantic. They have like 4 international airports, it feels like, in DFW.
Yeah. I got asked by a lot of people, why'd you choose Texas? I'm like, dude, the population of Texas is bigger than Australia.
Yeah.
Like I have more people available as an audience between DFW, Austin, and Houston than I do like all of New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, and Australia. Like it's in an area that's all drivable to the event. Like they could all day trip it, go for a day and drive back if you really wanted to, or just stay a night and come back. Like how can you argue with that? Like, and it's centralized in America. There's so many reasons to have it there. Like I said earlier, the track was a big part of it. The track letting me do what I want to do, and the communication with the track, how I guess open they are to help. They're like, for example, I've got a booth this weekend at Stampede of Speed, the IHRA event.
Oh, cool.
They, like, instead of being like, oh, yeah, it's 10 grand for a booth, or they're like, no, the track can let me have a booth there to promote GTR Festival. They've let me promote it via them, and the ticketing system lets me do a promotion with it, and they're letting me do all the things I want to do, and like extra setup and pack down days, and just been really helpful. So Texas Motorplex has been, the track itself has been just as much influence in holding it there as the location and population and I guess economic reasons. Plus having like T1, Jotech, the Shop Houston, Calvo, Dallas Performance, all that sort of close is,
I was going to say, probably shout out T1. I don't think we talked about them at all, but they're obviously a huge integral part of a lot of this because
they are.
Tony's such a name in this industry.
Oh, yeah. And he is, like, if I had to ever say that, like, who do you kind of look up to, or who do you look to as someone that you see as inspiring in this industry, Tony is on that list. Like, he is super smart, like genuinely intelligent when it comes to building and modifying cars and tuning. Like, really smart guy. His methods of what he does, both as business and as racing and as modifying, is awesome. It's a good dude to know, and he's been a massive supporter of what we're doing. Him and Kenny, those two guys, I don't think I could hold the event if they hadn't come on board the way that they have. Both of them. Kenny from Jotech, as you know, is an OG racer from like, Nopi days in the 90s.
It's so funny hearing people talk about Nopi because, I wasn't around for any of that. I was born in 94. I
was born in 81. So like I was around for a bit, but not heaps. So.
Yeah. Like you kind of saw a lot more of the tail end of it than I did. I didn't. Nopi was something I learned about in complete retrospect of like people telling me about it. But then you watch these old videos of like, what were they calling it? The front wheel drive cars that were pro front wheel drive, where they had like
wheelie bars with front wheel drive and all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah,
power
Lisa
glides
Kubo
in the front and
Rado and Lisa Kubo, and like Kenny was part of all that back then.
Yep.
So and Kenny's like, how do I put it? It's almost like the godfather of the tuning scene in Dallas in a way that it's like, if Kenny is supporting your event, that's almost like you can have the event. It's like stamp of approval. He has introduced me to a lot of people, and his recommendation has made people go from, what do I need to know about this event, convince me, to I come in. Like, just if Kenny says support it, I'm supporting it. That's the power Kenny from Jotech has.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he's coming with he's actually promoting the event right now at Texas Motorplex for the Stampede of Speed Country Music Festival component of the week-long festival.
Yeah.
He's got our flyers and pull-out banners there and window banners on the cars, and like, Kenny's amazing. And Tony's been supporting it since before we even announced it. He actually rocked up to our photo and video shoot in November last year, where we were basically filming a video for the announcement. Tony rocked up with George and Christine's Dodworth's cars, And everyone kind of freaked out. And they're like, man, you got Tony to turn up. Whoa. I'm like, in my, a part of me was like, I know, right? And then the other part's like, well, I kind of hoped I'd have that ability. But Tony has been on board since like, I literally walked up to him at TX2K. In fact, this is the same story for Kenny and Tony. Both had like, I guess, heard of Motive or whatever. We hadn't met or spoken yet. And I just went up to both of them at TX2K23 separately. Just said, hi, I'm Andrew from Australia. How you going? I love GTRs. They're like, yep, you know, we've seen your Motive and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, can I talk to you about an event idea in America and just get your honest opinion if you think it's worth doing? And had a probably 20-minute, half an hour chat with each of them about my ideas, how we run an event, what's different to event here. Do you think it'll like... And like, hit me in the face if you think it's a stupid idea, right? Like, just tell me. Don't.
I can handle it.
If you tell me you're a dickhead, piss off home to Australia and don't do an event.
Yeah.
I will, right? It's just my event's doing well there. I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
And they both gave me honest feedback, spoke about it, and were both like, no, this sounds awesome as a festival, and there's heaps of good reasons to do this. Let's do it. And then from that day onwards, they were both supporters of it. So I met them in March, I had a date in September, and then I rocked up in November. And then both of them, their attitude was, you went from like conversations with people about maybe having one to you have a date booked in less than, like in 6 months is pretty impressive.
Well, there's a lot of talkers in this world.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
I think we all probably have been a little bit guilty of big ideas, you know? But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talkers, and I'm sure Tony hears all of them.
Well, instead, there's a lot of talkers, but I also do a lot of talking, right? It's like,
yeah.
And I always say to people, I go, look, I may talk a lot of shit, but I don't lie. And if I say I'm going to go do something, when I say I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it. But if it's an idea, I say it's an idea. I don't sort of confuse the two. I don't say, hey, I'm going to do this. And I said on your show that, hey, yep, we're actively looking at doing a GTR festival in the US. I didn't say we are doing one. I said we're actively looking to go and do it, right? So when I rocked back up in November and walked into Kenny's shop, he just kind of went, we started talking, and he goes, oh, okay, so you're here. He goes, oh, yeah, I heard you're in town, blah, blah, blah. Are you looking at the tracker? I said, no, man, I got a date. And he goes, what? Gave him the like full media pack for it straight away. And he's like, all right, I'm in. Like straight away, I'm in. And then like since that launch announcement November last year, both Tony and Kenny have just been massive supporters. Like Tony's promoting it, advertising it, spruiking it, like telling customers to go. Now, obviously, Billy's roll race car, he's pumped. He wants to bring like 6 to 8 cars from Boosted Racing. So
I think you should tell... Billy was the fastest car at TX2K, 235, right?
Yeah, he's got the record for TX2K for a mile, even on a shorter track. So
yeah, 235.
It's yeah, and the guy's an awesome guy. Like, and he loves it. Like he really does love it, and he's coming all the way down for it. They were meant to be at FL2K, but the hurricane and the storms and everything. So now they're even more pumped for GTR Festival.
Yep. And it's funny to think GTR Festival because for people that don't know, TX2K started as 2JZ Nationals or whatever it was, 2JZ Invitational Nationals, something like that. I think
that's right,
Nationals. And
it grows. I don't. The good thing about GTRs is they're a cult car where you don't have to own one, you don't have to even want one, but you go, I know there's going to be some badass battles going on here.
Yeah,
and you go. So our DCT class is essentially like TX2K. We have Lambos. You can bring a Lambo, you can bring a Porsche, McLaren, etc. R8. So we have our DCT class, but the thing about that is people go, oh, but it's a GTR festival. I go, you don't want to watch Lambos and R35s punch on? Like, come on, man. Like, everyone wants to see them go head to head, right? You want to see an R35 take down the supercars. But the event is actually open to all Nissans. So you can enter any Nissan into the event.
So like the new 400Z, which is pretty close GTR-ish, you know? I mean, I think Amelia built that one that makes like 2,000 horsepower or something.
Well, that's got a GTR engine, so it might as well be a GTR now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's solid axle in the back. That's actually a pretty cool drag car.
That should race. You know what? She should race. She should race Mac. There's a race.
That thing is. I'm sure that thing is going to need a ton of dialing in.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that thing's going to take it. I mean, Mac's car. Sorry to say, not super dialed in, and I don't really get down yesterday at all.
Oh, look, he had one of those days. Like but in testing. He went down the track 11 out of 12 times. He was telling me, like, it was dialed. It was dialed in testing, but then weather, temperature, track conditions, things change. It's hard to, especially big events, it's hard to stay on top of it.
He's a GTR guy going to a drag car.
Correct.
Like GTR, IRS, all-wheel drive, and then it's like, yeah, it's the same motor, but like it's solid axle, 4-link.
Yeah.
You know, like it's radial tire car, turbo 400. It's very different. It's not
like racing a 35 GTR. You're racing a drag car now.
Yeah,
like
it's a drag car. Now it's just whatever power it makes doesn't matter.
The engine's almost irrelevant.
Yeah, as long as it makes horsepower.
As long as it makes power.
Yeah.
And isn't just, that.
Yeah, as long as you can tame the power.
But I'm looking forward to seeing him, like Ryan Samut's coming down from Canada for the 2J versus RB versus VI38 shootout.
That car's
I'd love to see, Rob Margin said he'd love to race White Rice, and can I allowed to say this? He wants to race White Rice and turn him into fried rice. Is that a good dig? Does that work? Is that all right?
Yeah, fried rice.
Yeah.
And then Dewey has Dirty Taco out that way too.
Yeah. Well, I actually spoke to him, spoke to Drag International about the S15 potentially coming. Yep. We'd love to have like just a really cool, like cars that run from like 620 to 650, 660, like that little bracket, like a mad shootout of 2J, RB and VI38. That would be sick. But the way our event works with drag racing, I kind of detour here a little bit to explain it to people. We don't run our drag racing anything like other drag events, but we kind of like do but one extreme to the other. So it's not all elimination and brackets and stuff like that. So what we do is we have two types of racing. We have headline category and open lane category. Open lane is I just want to have fun in my car, 10-0 and under. I just want to have fun in my car. I want to line up in the staging lanes. I just want to do some runs. I'll grudge my mate, whatever. But you can still get quickest ET in that. There's a stock turbo class for 35, stock turbo for Skyline GTR. There's a low mount turbo, single turbo, and then there's like a Nissan street car class for all Nissans with a trophy for quickest S chassis, R chassis, and Z chassis. So if you want to be the quickest Z and go 10-0 there, you can win that.
He means Z.
Z.
So like Z.
What's a Z?
Like
Z,
a 350Z.
Like Z, I don't know. Well, okay. All right, cool.
Okay.
The 350Z, 370Z, new Z. There's a quickest Z category. Yeah. Now I know my ABCs. So that's, you can do that. Now those categories in open lane just line up and run. But the headline categories run at a set time. And I've decided to do this because as a spectator, you go, I want to watch George Dodworth and Robert Margin in June 2 go head to head. I want to see Kimbo and Ryan Samut head to head. I want to see those big categories. I want to watch the DCT battle. You want to go on the schedule, hey, they run at 1 o'clock. But if you have brackets that oil downs keep moving things back and you have to run that order, everyone gets pushed back. But by doing it this way, we just go at 1 o'clock, at 5 to 1, stop the lanes. A burnout ute's going to come out and do some skids while we prep the track. And then we go straight into the big categories, which is True Street GTR, which is like Skyline GTRs that runs under $9.99. We have True Street GTR. We have Pro Street GTR, which is like Juntu and George Dodworth. We have GTR Extreme, which is like Kimbo. That's where like the ETS car can run and like anything goes basically. But it's no longer a like all-wheel drive normal chassis GTR anymore. We have the RB versus 2J versus VI38 shootout, but that within that shootout, that encompasses the Nissan race class and Pro Street GTR, so they can kind of enter both. They can win quickest ET in one category, but then go in the elimination. But if they get knocked out, they can still come out again, but just racing in the ET outright class. You've got DCT's elimination, DCT Street, DCT race. We've changed it from TX2K. We decided to go, you've either got a race car or a street car. And the reason we did that is measuring turbo size and weighing them and every run and all that sort of stuff. We just went, you know what? You've either got a street car, and if you've got a street car, you're going to have an interior, you're going to have an exhaust, you're going to have aircon, you're going to have factory front brake size on it. Otherwise, is it really a street car?
Street car.
So we just made some basic rules that said you need these to be a street car, and I don't care what size turbos you put on. So no more 58mm cap for R35s versus Lambos that can run whatever they want. Race class is like, do whatever you want. Don't care. Methanol, turbos at the back.
Do something cool.
Just go fucking fast, would you?
Yeah.
So that's the headline category. So the whole idea is, like I said, at 5 minutes before they're due out, we stop the track, we prep it ready for them, and then the crowd can go, I'm watching the new builds get unveiled at 10:30. I'm going to go do a drift ride at 11. I'm going to go look at Traders Alley for an hour, and then I'm going to watch that category at 1 o'clock. You can plan your day better. I'm not saying it'll run perfectly with no oil downs. I'm just saying that...
It'd be delusional to think that.
It's delusional to think that. But we're going to try and make it so that there's nothing worse as a spectator going, okay, there's an oil down. How long is this oil down going to last?
Yeah.
Is it 1 minute or 30 minutes? Okay, I'm going to go for a walk. Fuck, I lost my spot. Shit, I lined up for food. Now I missed the run I wanted. If we can say... and I hate to say this with drag racing, a lot of people in the stands I noticed at every event I've been to, none in particular, all of them, they don't know where someone qualified in round 4 3 days ago. They don't even care. They don't even care what round you're in. You know what they care? I just watched Cletus race that guy. That was sick.
Yeah.
They don't remember anything else except that. That was the sickest roll race between Billy and that Lambo, and he won. That was hectic. They don't know who won. They don't know who qualified. They don't know. All they want to see is good runs. So GTR Festival is kind of, in a way, delivering a show more than it's delivering a drag event, if that makes sense. And some of the guys coming, they're well aware of that, and they're like, I don't care. I don't want to go 10 rounds of qualifying and racing to get there. I just want to race Kimbo and Jun 2 and try and win that shootout.
Yep.
I don't want 50 cars in that shootout. I want like 16 at the most. We're capping our entrance at like 250 total racing because we don't want to race till 2 a.m. We want to deliver a show and then party at night. Like that's
yeah.
It doesn't mean there's still prize pool. We're actually doing like each major category has between $2 and $5 grand prize money plus what we call the prize pool of spectators. If 5,000 spectators turn up, the prize pool is X. If 20,000 turn up, it's Y, and it's scaled based on that. So we might give out 30 grand in prize money. We might give out 100. Just depends on how big the crowd is. So if you're watching, buy your tickets.
Yeah, show up.
Show up.
Because if there's more prize money, you're going to see better racing.
Correct. And there's no live stream at the first one.
Yeah.
So,
and Victor, shout out to him again. He's really good with big guaranteed payouts. It was 10 grand to win, 20 grand to win some classes.
Yeah.
Like 20 grand to win X Street, it's a big payout.
I find payouts are in one way they're awesome, and in another way my attitude is with GTR Festival is you should be coming to race at GTR Festival because you love GTRs, right? The prize money should be completely irrelevant, but it is a nice bonus. But the winner of the car of the show actually is going to take home a couple of grand as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And we've got championship, like NFL-style championship rings for the main category. Nice. So you get a trophy and you get a championship ring. They're only going to be limited to like 10 per event per year is my plan. Got like Texas belt buckles is an award for like certain categories. And like I reckon there's 100 trophies in total between show and shine, drag racing, roll racing, etc. Oh, maybe not that many, about 70.
Like a drag and drive doesn't focus on the payout too much because it takes away some of the camaraderie.
Correct.
If there's too much money to win, suddenly people aren't as helpful to their fellow driver, and that's kind of what it has to be on a drag and drive. You got to be helpful to people. Like, you don't have to be, but like it's part of the sport. Is you're all trying to make it together.
Yeah, I'd rather
20 grand to win. Suddenly you're like, ha.
Yeah,
you're out. Like, good. But if there's like a couple grand to win, and you're like, all right, I'll help you out.
And that's the thing is that those open lane categories don't have a payout. They're just a trophy because you're just there for fun, right? Like it's.
Can you see the flyer?
There you go.
Cool. Wow, it's a big turbo.
And the shirt. GTRs are bigger in Texas.
Oh, even the shirt and all.
Godzilla's
I love Texas
eating
Motorplex.
Texas. Yeah,
it's awesome out there.
And that's the thing. We needed a venue that could let us do everything.
So. Yeah. You need a big enough venue for this, for an event.
And the whole idea is we've also got the car meet is designed where the show and shine is I want to take displaying my car seriously, have a pre-reserved spot. Well, the car meet is just you rock up on the day, you can enter the car meet in any Nissan. Hell, you could get a hire car. I've got a Nissan Rogue hire car right now. Technically speaking, by our rules, you could hire a Nissan Rogue and say, I would like to park in the car meet.
Yeah.
It's a Nissan, it's called the Nismo car meet.
I can't wait to see the Jukes.
Yeah, there's going to be Jukes everywhere. There can be like trucks, anything. If you have a Nissan badge on the car, you can drive into the car meet and park inside and be part of it.
Did you see that Altima that they just restored, or what was it, a Sonata or some
big Ultimate Energy?
Yeah, but they just sent it to Japan and like did like the full, because it was like a 1,000,000-mile one, and they just like completely restored it with all this like, what do they call, like end parts or something? Like it's just, it looks ridiculous because it's like still stock ride height, but it's like all Nissan end out.
There's some weird stuff going on, don't you worry.
Yeah.
So, but the whole idea is you can take the event as seriously or casually as you like. If you own a Nissan or a GTR, I want you to feel like you're all welcome. It's not, and like, but I get how events get to the point, like TX2K, if you don't run 850 or quicker, it's almost like don't even come.
Yeah.
fine. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, Peter's built that to
Be that and he
level.
has the market there for it, and he needs a cutoff because otherwise there'd be 2,000 cars trying to come.
Yeah.
But because we're a GTR festival with a Nissan meet, or a Nismo meet, as we call it, I just want everyone with a Nissan to feel like they're part of it. I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is a drag event, I'm just playing second fiddle to drag cars. No. If you have any Nissan, just come.
Yeah, like World Cup, you got to send a slip.
Yeah, man.
And a video.
And so
you
you
can't
should.
just send a slip.
Because I don't want to fly the way to World Cup to watch 12-second cars.
No.
But
that's not why the stands are packed from end to end.
Correct.
And people are fighting for a seat. It's because you know the cars are going to be fast. You know the cars are competitive. That it's not just going to... Because that, too, is like, if a car is gone and done past us, it's not as likely to oil down as a car
I
that,
totally agree with you. 100%. I don't think you should be allowed at World Cup without a slip.
You should show a ladder that shows you made it to semifinals at least once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you know, okay, he's a racer. He's
and
not
it shouldn't just
like
be a time slip where you did it on one test day. You should have shown that you've gone, like, entered an
you
event.
almost need to show, like, this is a ladder where I've made it 3 rounds.
My car's gone 860, which is, baby in the scheme of, like, drag racing. But, like, for what it is good.
Yeah.
But, like, for TX2K, I have to get essentially special permission to be allowed to enter because 850 is the cutoff. So I've decided that I'm going to make sure that by the time TX2K is around, I ain't going to be at the fucking back. All right. I may or may not have a billet engine being built with even more capacity in it to get sent over to install it here to race at TX2K next year, and then
that'll be cool.
The way the Burnout guys are doing, like they're like an American tour. Yeah, I might do a little American RB GTR tour.
Yeah, people like
car.
Kyle. He's been on the show twice now. He's fully Americanized. Yeah. He's all in the world.
He better not be not saying g'day anymore, I can tell you.
He might not be. I don't know.
Is he saying howdy now instead of g'day? Or?
He might be. Well, he's been to so many different states. I mean, it's like
true.
Everybody talks so differently.
Yeah. Well, when you walk into GTR Festival, we joked I wanted to have a sign, instead of saying g'day mate, I wanted to say g'day y'all, and then howdy mate. And the track said, it's awesome, do it, love it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to change the name to Tex Oz. So I'm just going to put a U in there, so it's Tex Oz, yeah.
They already call it their own country anyways, because Texas is so big, it takes like 12 hours to drive from one end to the other. It's like, people don't realize.
Funny story about the whole, I guess, the theme of the event. I started just like having a bit of a joke about how Australian, like, trinkety things you can have at the event to make it funny.
Yeah.
And then Susie goes, don't go too crazy with it. They might think it's too much. Because in Australia, no offense, if you're in Australia, it wouldn't matter what country you're from, if you came to Australia to run an event and you hung 400 American flags off the grandstands, people be like, all right, settle down, mate. Not offensively don't like America, but as in that's too much. Mm-hmm. But when I was talking to people in Texas, I'm like, if I have a real kangaroo there, a kangaroo mascot dressed up that runs around the starting line punching people, and then the mural on the start line is a bald eagle and a kangaroo fighting each other, how would that go down? They're like, fuck yeah.
It'd go down great. Yeah.
So I started going, all right, they lean into it. And everyone's like, man, lean into it. All right, cool. All right, so that's why it's like, GTRs are bigger in Texas, is on the shirt and the stickers, and you can win a championship ring, and I got trophies that are like the state of Texas map, and you got belt buckles and cowboy hats as a trophy. And
it's funny because Australia has basically stolen the GTR from Japan. In a way. Yeah. You don't even, personally, I think of it as more of an Australian car than I think of it as a Japanese car, because you guys have fully hijacked it to be like, we're gonna. You guys are falling short. We're going to take over from here.
The funny part is we were actually leading GTR development back in 1990, 91, 92 in Group A days. In fact, Australia is the reason the N1 block exists. So when Group A racing started, and this isn't like Google shit you can find, this is like talking to Gibson Motorsport, who ran the Group A camp GTRs in Australia, to get this information. This isn't out there.
Yeah.
So they started testing the RB26 in an engine dyno and started cracking the block. And now, in a very typical Japanese fashion, Alan Heafy went to Japan, took an engine block, took his results, and said, it cracks here and it's cracking on the deck. So all he knows is, a few months later, a block turns up in Australia and don't crack no more. He doesn't know what they did. They didn't tell him anything. Now, you put two and two together. That's
very Japanese of them.
Yeah, it's very Japanese. But the thing is, when Herman and I did all these engine block testing videos that blew up on the internet, we basically said, what's the difference between a normal RB26 and an N1 RB26? And all we could find was the deck's a little bit thicker and it doesn't crack around the oil guller anymore. And we didn't get to find out why until we actually cut one up into pieces and sort of you could see skin under the skin and kind of see all the extra ribbing and bracing and everything in that area. So all Japan did was fix the exact thing that Alan Heafy said he's breaking.
Yeah.
Thicker deck, more material around the bottom of the studs on the area above the oil feed, right? And that's it. They didn't change anything else.
Yeah.
Material is like questionable. Maybe, maybe not. Depends which casting. Depends on whether it was the old foundry, the new foundry, etc. But so typical Japanese, they only changed what we said it was breaking. And then, so Australia then kept racing them. Our GTRs made like hundreds of horsepower more than the Japanese ones. They had, billet uprights and custom arms and like were designed to last 1,000 kilometres of racing at Bathurst, wheel to wheel and, bit of Aussie biffo along the way. So they wouldn't let our Group A cars race in Japan. And the one time I think they did in some small race, it was like heavily restricted, wouldn't let us use our fuel. And so our GTRs were the quickest. And then once Group A racing stopped, it was like GTR scene kind of went quiet in Australia. Japan took over the tuning side of it where they had 9-second street GTRs in like the late 90s. It was wild. Like that's what got me into it. And then Japan led the way again when it came to like drag GTRs. And then they had the record with the HKS R33. That record, and then once HKS has a habit of doing this. They break a record in something and that sport kind of then goes stagnant for a bit until it has a resurrection later because they just beat everyone by so much.
Yeah.
So they had the
They retire other people.
Yeah, they just make everyone pack up and go home. They ran 767 in their R33 drag car. Took a long time for that to get beaten, but it was actually the New Zealanders who led the way in GTR scene in like the mid-2000s. It was Reece McGregor, Heat Treatment's GTR was leading the way, and then it was Robbie Ward. So they both had the GTR record for a while before Aussies kind of didn't just take it back. They took it back and like took it another second.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next step. Yeah. Because now we're talking sixes.
It's like a relay race, and we didn't just take it's like we took the torch and then like had 2 bottles of nitrous on the back and just went, see us, like just took it to a whole nother where everyone just went, nah, like forget it. Like no one's joining the GTR Skyline GTR arms race now. If your shop hasn't been building them for 5-10 years, like it's just good luck.
Behind.
Like it's good luck.
Or if you didn't work at a shop that was building them for 10 years. And
so like the New Zealand guys, so it was Reece McGregor, Robbie Ward and Glenn Suckling were kind of like the 3 powerhouses of GTRs. Glenn Suckling was the first 7-second like sequential manual GTR, but it was a race car. And then since then we've now got like 7-second on ethanol GTRs with full interiors and so... Yeah, that's the New Zealanders had it, and then when the GTR scene was a bit stagnant, and then when I started GTR Challenge in 2009, that's kind of when I started helping push it, and then GTR Festival in 2016, and then it just wrecking. And then now roll racing as well in Sydney is a massive contributor to the scene pushing forward as well and staying strong. So it's not just me, like I've been a big part of it, but it's certainly, we all need each other to grow that scene, if that makes sense. So
you can't grow it in a vacuum.
No, that's right.
You need a group.
I think as it's gotten more popular in America and Europe and everywhere else, GTR cult overall has increased. It's not like a little vacuum of GTR in Australia. It kind of was, but now everyone's seeing it grow globally. So now you've got people asking Australian shops to build their engines and send them over, and PRP, obviously the amount of parts development they're doing for the GTR is ridiculous. They're making parts for problems you didn't know that you have yet. Like, and that's the truth. Like it's reached the point now where we wake up some days at PRP and it's like Herman or one of us will come up with an idea and go, we should make this out of billet. Why? I don't know, because no one else has. Like, you don't even need it. Like, but people want it. So,
and that's the funny thing, because like I think about the 2J stuff, and so much of the OEM Toyota stuff is still. Like, it's even like, oh no, just use the Toyota stuff. It's actually better. Yeah. But that's Toyota to Nissan difference. Toyota's always been like...
Yeah. They're over the top when it comes to making...
Yeah.
Well, I built a GR Yaris it's an actual Toyota. You know how the Supra's not a Toyota?
Yeah, it's a BMW.
I was the first person to modify a GR Yaris heavily in the world, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to have done with a model of car. I put a Motec on at E85, got into the 12s, and then we put a turbo kit on it from Golby's and started pushing power, and it kind of went viral because no one thought a 3-cylinder turbo Yaris would be like 490 horsepower at the hubs, like over 500 at the engine. But I did that right back at the start, like now it's normal. Like there's 900 horsepower Yaris now, but back when it started, and that was all stock engine, stock bottom end, stock head, stock. The only thing we changed was valve springs and cams.
I will say the new Supras are pretty impressive. They
I love
pretty
them.
fast.
No, I love them.
They're good cars.
One of my favorite cars.
But like I tell people, They're like, oh, but it's a BMW. I'm like, yeah, BMWs are pretty good. They've been good for a long time.
Look, I had a Supra for 2 years, and I absolutely loved it. I actually wish I had another one.
When I opened the door and heard the chime, that kind of grind my gears a little bit. I was like, oh, it's so BMW.
Yeah.
They couldn't even, like, the chime is just like so BMW.
A lot of little things were, but I'd never really been a Euro guy before. So for me, I was like, I got to own a Supra and a Euro and all this stuff in once. And I always said about the Supra is, when I did just wheels, boot lip spoiler, color-coded it, bright orange, color-coded the side skirts, which, by the way, everyone, please color-code your side skirts. They look so much better. You could park it at the front of a casino and they'd leave it there against all the supercars because it looked hot. And when you drive down the street in a Porsche, you get called a wanker. But if you drive down the street in a Supra, people chase after you and go mad car and take a photo. So it was like you had a supercar level of luxury and performance, but without the bad downside of supercar ownership or the price. But fuck, man, that car was capable. Like, I did a motor car in it one night where I thought, I won't use a Supra for a motor car. It's too tail happy. It won't be. Weapon. Like, didn't even drive the Yaris. Drove the Supra all night. Drifted it, burnouts, drag racing, circuit, just drive to a circuit night.
They're nice. They're small. It's one of the few actually small cars.
Yeah.
Because every car is so big. Like, I just saw, like, the new M5. They're like, it's
massive.
5,500 pounds. I'm like,
yeah.
That's like a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Because it's got the hybrid and everything. And it's like, it's so
huge.
big and heavy. And there's not many small cars
Supra's
anymore.
light. And that auto in that car is shift as fast as a dual clutch when you're using it in sport mode. And I know there's the manual purist, but you know, I have other manual cars. So for that car was perfect. Drive it home in traffic as a luxury European car, but then I could be a hooligan in it and act like an idiot doing burnouts.
Let me pause you for a second. I gotta pee.
All right.
I'll be right back. I talked to a couple shop owners about this, and it's interesting. And I want to talk to somebody in a different country. Everybody's always looking for the next platform. You know, like when the R35s came out, and then like the R35 shops kind of switched to more like R8 Huracan, but then like the lower level stuff, people are really deep into the Mustangs because the Coyote is so freaking good.
Yeah.
It's undeniably good. Like you could be hate Coyotes as much as you want, but it's undeniably good. They rev them to 10,000 RPM at 2,800 horsepower.
I almost want to put one in like a S15 as a drift car or something. Like I just want to try it.
It like actually like breaks my brain a little bit to hear 10,000 RPM at 2,800, 3,000 horsepower.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I'm used to RBs, they rev, so.
Yeah, but a V8,
but a V8 like that is wild.
At almost 3,000 horsepower is insane.
I actually hope Coyotes kind of get into that region where they're just as accessible and modifiable and parts available as an LS. And they're on the way.
Block.
Yeah, and they're on the way to that, I think.
It's really crazy. So what's the next platform? Like where are people kind of gravitating to? We didn't get the Yaris here.
Yeah, the Yaris, it's I mean, there's only so many of them made, right? So there's only so much you can do. The Corolla's heavier, so it's harder to know is it going to thing. But the problem with the Corolla and the Yaris is always going to be it's a 3-cylinder.
Yeah. The BMWs are really popular now. The S58 and the B58, Supra, the BMW, those are doing pretty good
in Australia.
Yeah,
like an M3 in Australia is getting up to 200 grand in an M3 competition with a bunch of stuff done, which is probably like 125 US. Mm-hmm. Like that's not cheap, right? Like that's an expensive car.
Yeah, that's
Supra's better pricing now, but no one in Australia has got on top of them, like as in properly on top of tuning them. There's a couple that have kind of managed to get one to work or this and that, but like it's not like you can just ring up and get your Supra done as easily in Australia as here. Parts are expensive. The Z,
400.
Man, they're actually not that popular, and
they look pretty good.
You reckon?
I mean,
you're not saying that with extreme confidence.
I'm just not I've never really been a big Nissan guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never been. I mean, don't get me wrong. I respect the heritage of the Z massively, especially the Datsun.
It's got very squared off. It's
a GT cruiser, while the GTR is like a prop sports car, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's stick shift, which is nice.
Yeah, it's not a great box though. It's 20 years old. It's a CD009's been around since like 04 or whatever.
Well, Nissan's not really one to like.
Yeah,
they kind of stopped developing. Car, yeah.
So I got the Z and developed it for a year. Yeah. Honestly, probably did more to that in Australia than anyone else has still. Mm-hmm. But as a manual, it's like it wasn't as good around the circuit as a Supra. The manual's not that great, and then you go to the track with it, and it just fights you because it, like the ECU doesn't want to let you do burnouts unless you disconnect some stuff or whatever, and then it doesn't. It axle tramps and it gets diff knock, and it just kind of like it's one of those cars where the mile an hour keeps going up and the ET stays the same, right?
Yep.
Like even with the drag rate on, just like it was just infuriating to try and develop. As just a, hey, here's the keys, drive it around the block, come back to what you think. You're like, man, it's pretty cool. Like, and that's really what it's good at.
For the price point too of like, would you buy that over something else? Probably not.
Supra makes this. If people are going to want to fight me over this one, but if you think that a Z is even in any way as good as a Supra, in any way you can think of to do with a car other than your own subjective opinion, you're wrong. Yep. Like the Supra just slaughters the Z in every department, in every way. Every measurable way. Like if you want to do that weird test where you measure like what the quality of the material and everything, like on the interior, like it will win that. Like the only thing the Z did better than the Supra I had anyway, was it had Apple CarPlay and the Supra didn't, which it probably does now, right? Like other than that, I can't find one thing. The Supra ruined me before I got the Z. But for what most people want a Z for, it's good. Like just want a cool GT cruiser, right? It's the guy that wants that instead of a Mustang. But the guy that wants to go racing, not so much. Like I saw one Z in the 1050 class at FL2K, right? Like they haven't caught on. So what's the next?
And there's a whole class of Supras going 7s.
Exactly. I don't know what the next Japanese car to gravitate to.
But even just like enthusiast car, because all these shops are like, most shops don't want to work on old cars. They want to like work on like bring your brand new car here because we want to be the first hands on it. No shop wants a car that's like, hey, this is the 15th guy that's touched it.
Yeah, that's right.
So they all try to kind of gravitate towards the next thing, and like
I don't know what it is. Toyota's got talks of an MR2 in the works.
Oh yeah, I saw
Celica that. I've heard a rumor of every single thing there is, right? Yeah. But like Hondas don't have what they used to, as in like people aren't getting brand new Honda Civics and making them.
They're too heavy. It's like the only good thing about the Civic was it was light.
Even the 86/BRZ, I thought they would. Mate, it's just, but that boxer engine's just.
If they had an STI one, that car would have been hot.
Yeah,
people would have loved them. If there was a turbo STI version of that,
I'd like if there was an all-wheel drive way to make an all-wheel drive turbo swap into an 86, so it basically became a WRX. That'd be sick.
Even rear-wheel drive turbo would have been cool. Yeah. But they still didn't even want to give that, and then they gave like a horrible engine.
Now they're saying they might put a 3-cylinder Yaris engine in it. So it's like, well, they need, what they need? Like, but now there's talk of a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine coming out in the new Celica or MR2 or whatever else. And there's reports of saying they want to build like a motorsport level 4-cylinder turbo that's like could have the legendary status of the JZ does. They're actually there's an article about that I've seen on the internet.
That'd be cool.
And Toyota come out and have said that they're working on like a new engine that could be like the next engine that we all get excited about.
Yeah, Toyota tried with like making, the Scion brand like a younger enthusiast car.
That was Stance Kids and Vape brand.
But they tried.
They
didn't bring the Stance. They weren't marketing to Stance and Vape Kids. That's just what it fell to.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's who latched to it.
They used motorsport marketing and then ended up the motorsport just became a cool way for kids to talk about, hey, guess what? Like this driver drives that car. Like it didn't. But the funny part is those BRZ/86 chassis, if you take them to like a tight technical track, they're sick. Like they're actually, especially the new one. I got the new one when it first came out in Australia, BRZ, before the 86 came out. And we were doing lap times with just coilovers, rotors, pads, and lines.
Well, they're low. Tires. They got a low center of gravity.
Mate.
They're light cars.
It was, that car reminded me of like a baby Porsche GT3, which is at a circuit, they come alive. I
actually like the look of that car too. Like it's a pretty good looking car. They fell short on that power plant.
If you don't circuit race or at least do like a track down, don't go on a big track, go to like a smaller tight track. If you don't do that with your BRZ or 86, you are missing out the point of that car. Like it is. And I know I got a time attack car. Like I like drag racing and corners and drifting all as much as each other, right? For different reasons. And just if you're not circuit racing, I don't know what you're doing. You should be. Like they're so good, The lap times we have done in them is just
if it's just a car to like cruise around, you might as well just have a Prius because it's just as fast.
Exactly right. It's just I found, and that's the thing is when I drove it home from the track, I went, "Fuck, this is boring on the street."
Yeah.
Like it was just,
exactly.
But at the track, it was. Man.
Well, like P cars are always, big and everybody likes Porsches and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They're, I don't know how they are over there, but
The journalists are right. They are.
Everybody wants a 911 turbo because they're just unbelievably good.
Unfair how good they are. Yeah. Almost. A Porsche Turbo S, every set of lights you can launch control it all day.
Yeah.
There was a guy at a runway in Australia on a Porsche day during COVID where they did a customer day on a big runway at Sydney Airport, which is a bit of a one-off. He goes, I did like 210 launches that day. I'm like, I can't think of one all-wheel drive car on the planet that can do 210 launches in a day. Couldn't even do 10 launches in a day, most all-wheel drive cars. They'd be back getting warranty claim on a clutch or a gearbox, right? Like, it was wild. And then the GT3 and GT3 RS at a circuit are just the best.
Yep.
But between the two, if you want to switch topics slightly, if you had to own one that you only ever drove on the road, you get the turbo. The torque and the launch makes it so fun everywhere.
Man, I tell that to people all the time. I got friends that buy these GT3 RSs.
They're boring on the street.
And I'm like,
they're they are on the street.
Get a turbo.
A GT3 RS on the street is look at me. I've got a GT3 RS. You have to respect that I'm a educated and cool car.
They never hang on to them long.
Dude, that's right. You don't, because they're actually GT3 RS is annoying on the road. And then GT3 can get boring because you don't rev the piss out of it every gear change. Yeah. It's boring. But a Turbo S is like roll in at $2,500 and the thing smashes your head into the seat. Like
Garrett's wife, she comes over and hangs out mine all the time. She drives the Turbo S all the time. She's like, I like that car. It's nice to drive.
It's mad.
I'm like, I'm sure you do. It's a pretty good car.
Jordan who worked, Drive-Wire Jordan from AMS. I was at Bang & Gears with him last year and I had to take Suze to the airport. And I think he misinterpreted what I said. And I said, I've got to take it to the airport. And he goes, take my Porsche. I went, what? I've only got your 600 horsepower Nismo GTR here. He goes, no, I got my Porsche Turbo S here to drive around while I'm here. I'm like, oh, take that. I goes, is it modified? He goes, yeah, just usual. It's like a mid 9-second Turbo S.
Yeah.
But man, just like driving that around, they're just so good.
Sissio had a really nice, that blue one that they had was really well done.
Yep.
I liked that car a lot. They're just good.
They're so good. And I think the problem that a lot of people have with them is you look at one, you can park 50 of them next to each other and most people can't even tell the difference, if that makes sense. But there's like 73 sub-variants of 992 or something. Like it's just...
I know, like I compare them to like a Huracan, even though they're cheaper. And it's like, you would enjoy that car probably 10 times more to just drive around.
Even the Audi R8, I find if you say Audi R8 versus Huracan, the Audi R8's a nicer car to live with and drive around. But there's always that, hey, but it's ain't a Lambo, right? Like... It's like, but GTR badge is the same thing with Skylines. If you have a GTST Skyline, they're an awesome car. GTSTs, like sick drift cars, sick circuit cars. In fact, like it's almost easier to make a two-wheel drive Skyline GTST faster around a circuit than a GTR up until a certain point. But if it hasn't got it once, it's that the GTR badge is like the allure, right? It's like same deal with a Porsche. You have a GT3 badge on it versus not. It's just some people just need that badge, right?
So for the event, obviously there's countless YouTubers that have some GTRs. You got
there's a few coming.
LZ, Tommy.
Oh, there's a few going. So Throttle are coming. They're actually building a 34 GTR right now. That's that Fast and Furious tribute one, which it's not a coincidence that this year they chose the GTR and GTR Festival's coming to America. It's not a coincidence. I helped Mickey from Throttle build his own 32 GTR for Bang & Gears, which anyone who saw all that, that is still eventually coming out through a new automotive streaming app that I can't talk about.
I was just talking to somebody about that was in it. Katie, that was...
Yeah.
And she had her Supra and Mike Vargas, who blew up his car three times, I think.
I know, I watched that.
It's a rotary.
I watched him fixing it on the floor. I'm like...
Did he have a 5-gallon bucket? That's how he usually does it. He did it in my driveway one year.
Yeah, fuck. It was wild to watch. I was sitting there going, you're keen, bro.
He's quick about it. He's like, you got to make sure you put the seals around your neck so you don't forget one. Because if you put the engine together and you still got one of the seals around your neck, you messed up somewhere.
Wow. Yeah, our build... Well, actually, I shouldn't talk. We built Mickey's car in 3 weeks from a dead stock 32 to what I said will be a Porsche GT3 killer. And he's like, what? It was just like a 2.6 G35 900, sequential, manual, and good suspension and brakes in it. And like out of the box, like just the first base alignment... our first lap in that Bang & Gears show was 2 seconds quicker than what I drove a GT3 RS the day before.
Oh, wow.
And then it did like a 10.8, 135, like first pass without trying. Just like, it was on like 20, £4 or something. Like, it's like we're pretty good at building good GTR recipes. So that show is coming out.
Banging Gears, for people that don't remember, LZ hosted it, right?
Yeah, LZ and Colette and Mr. JW hosted it.
Yes.
And had like 70 YouTubers and influencers converge for it. So I built that for Mickey from Throttle. They're building a 34. So Throttle's coming. Gary King from Hoonigan is coming.
Oh, okay.
What's going on with Hoonigan, I'm not sure, but Gary King's coming. Hurt's coming. He's bringing the Enjuku Racing R32 as well as his GTR. So he'll be doing drift demos, drift rides, driving his GTR. There's a big drift event in Japan that weekend. So there are a couple of guys who are... Adam LZ is actually going to be at that, but he did say to me he'll probably make the Australian event in May. Tommy Effier is obviously coming because he's actually his Garage S0 with Andrew with the 400R from SW Lighting. They're actually a presenting sponsor of the event.
So you're going to judge the car show for you?
Yeah, he has to. There's actually 2 judges from Australia as well. So Cardo GTR, who's a GTR YouTuber, and Andrew Hannison, who's probably like one of the best GTR builders around, and Tommy are going to be the 3 judges in the car show.
That's a good judging.
I'm taking Tommy for a ride in my GTR with 17 GoPros in it, all live streaming every angle to see the fear.
He doesn't
deep
like
in
fast.
his eyes.
No, 600 horsepower I think is about what he likes.
Well, he's about to fucking feel double that.
Yeah.
He likes to. We are mates, and we actually enjoy the talk and smack.
Yeah, no, me and Tommy are friends too.
Yeah.
And we're just on polar opposite sides of cars, and that's why I like to poke at him.
And I drove that 400R that he did, where everyone went, that's blasphemy. I actually think what Andrew did with that 400R with Tommy is a great idea. You wouldn't drive a 400R with the original engine. If it breaks, you're fucked. So they put a HKS 2.8, Getrag with 411s.
Yeah.
Taking a step back and ignoring that it's a 400R, is it a good GTR? Yeah, it was mad. I had a drive of it up Angel Crest Mountain or whatever it is outside LA when Vin featured it from... Vin might be coming as well, actually. Vin and Zach might be coming. Actually, I probably should ring him and say, yeah, you guys coming or what?
Yeah.
So they're coming. Last time I spoke to Speed Academy, they said they were. I don't know if they still are, but we'll check. And Larry Chen's coming. He's a massive GTR fan. So,
okay.
So yeah,
Larry's got a nice one.
So there's a few, but there's even other YouTubers that may not be like people that our audience here watch. Like I know that CJ on 32s is like a local YouTuber in Dallas. He's got 1 million followers. He wants to come. Steve's POV has nearly 1 million. He's going to come as well. So there's a few other people I know that are coming. Pterodactyl Tactics is coming as well with his 34 from Thing. I don't know if TJ Hunt's coming or not, actually. I should probably ask.
He's got a nice R34. His very different build than Adam's.
Come and race me, TJ.
Yeah. I don't know if his is built to race, but...
I'll turn mine down to... I'll turn the boost controller off.
I think even George Dodgeworth has a R34 also. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Well,
he's got a collection.
George Dodgeworth is actually another massive supporter of the event. I found out when I met him properly at TX2K this year that he goes to me, I've been following the Australian car scene since the 90s. I used to buy Fast Fours and Roadies. He goes, I've read articles you wrote from like 2005. I'm like...
That's awesome.
Wow. Like...
Laser George.
He was probably more excited about GTR Festival coming... And I didn't know this. This is what spun me out. He's like, this guy has the quickest R35 in the world, right? So I'm sitting there going, I really hope this guy will come. Like, I haven't met him. I know he's a good dude, but I haven't met him. I think maybe we'd spoken online once. So to then get that reaction from him, which is like, it's almost like instant best friends.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I love Australia. I'm so excited the event's coming. I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't even have to like try to get the guy who's got the quickest 35 in the world to get excited about it. He was just... Yeah, he was. I think first interviewed, like pumped about it coming. He was first video feature we did with him. He was straight into, can't wait, going to be there. Like he wants to do a laser show at the event. We're going to work that out. Like
I think one of the TX2Ks, not the first, but one of them I was at. He like an RX-7 rolled up and he bought it.
Yeah,
he just liked it. Yeah. It was like a 4-rotor RX-7, something crazy. Yeah. And he was just like, yep.
Well, he was traveling doing the lasers for a Kiss concerts.
Yeah,
and he went to Australia. What do you think he did on his day off in Sydney? He went to Croydon Racing Developments.
Nice.
And I got sent a photo of him sitting in like the Zeus Pro mod. And
you love to see somebody with that level of race car be a true enthusiast too, because sometimes there's just like, you're a racer, you care about racing, you don't like, it could be any car, like it's like a washing machine. It's just it's a tool to accomplish the goal of a win light. But like a true enthusiast is a little different.
Correct. And it's like you meet YouTubers who... And there's nothing wrong with it. It's probably more a business to them. And I still go to events and walk around the car park. People go, are you just randomly walking around the car park looking at GTRs? I'm like, yeah. You're not sick of them? I go, no. Like, I was partying in the pits at FL2K with the guys from Trilogy. Like, they got into GTRs and coming. And like, that's what I want to do. I don't go, okay, I finished filming. I'm going home. Like, my job's done. I want to be part of it. And to see George is a GTR fanatic is awesome. Like he's 100% supporting it and will do everything he can to have every one of his cars there. So even his 2J Scion Pro Mod thing. Yeah. He even wants to. He's going to do 2J versus VR38 versus RB against himself.
Yeah, that was actually Victor's car. Yeah. Originally, they built it at CJ Race Cars, who's now building Garrett's new car.
Yeah.
They built that, and then it was almost done, and they were just kind of doesn't really have a spot for it. You know how that is. Cars are almost done all the time, and they're for sale. It's like boats. The second somebody's boat is done being built, it's for sale.
It's weird, isn't it? I've always found that odd. From mine, I build them, keep them, most of them. So yeah. But speaking of Victor, I've been told I have to call him out on behalf of Robert Margin with Jun 2. I've been told I have to call Victor out. He's super out. It's what's the quickest that Supra's gone since he's had it?
I think a 630.
630 what?
I don't know. 1 maybe?
Okay, so he's slightly quicker than Jun 2 potentially.
Yeah.
I was told I need to call him out and say that if you want, we can have an RB come and beat you that still has a radiator support and an interior in it. It's a street car. But, if he's quicker, then I mean, we'll just subtly hint that perhaps there's a good race there.
Is that car on radials?
Yep.
Okay, because, there is the quickest radial import as well, is a pretty big record. I know it's a micro record-ish, but not really, because that's a pretty big achievement to have a radial import car going low sixes.
100%. And I think we just keep to enjoy the stir-up because we still it's a complete car. It's not back halved. It's not clipped at the front. Nothing. So but I'd love to see the 2J versus RB versus VR38 is not just meant to be what I've been told is after World Cup, I'm probably going to get 100 phone calls because the guys are okay, my car's still running. I'd love to see the IDS S14 there and some of these 2Js E-powered Silvias and stuff because there is a Nismo meet there and it's all open door Nissan. So you can either have a Nissan engine or a Nissan chassis. I don't care which one. As long as one of them's Nissan, you can come. People want to bring LS-powered Nissans, go for it. I don't care. As long as they're Nissans, they can come race. So, and there is a category for Nissan race cars. And
we got a lot of 240s in the US. We don't have many GTRs, but we got a ton of 240s.
Heaps. There should be 2,000 240s in the car meet.
And what IDS does with the 240s, and they recently launched their solid axle for the R32. It's a nice kit, bolt-in, 9-inch Mustang suspension. I know
that one's spinning me out. I'm it doesn't technically that would push a car into GTR Extreme, but I suppose if you wanted that rear end, you've probably got the power that you would anyway.
Well, in the US, the rule is written as stock style rear suspension, so it has to have come from a it's Fox body geometry. You can't just do straight up 4-link because that's not an OEM style anymore.
Got ya.
But because it's Fox, it doesn't say what car. It doesn't say it has to be.
Nice use of rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, if you have an IRS 240, stock style is always going to be IRS.
Yeah.
But if you're stock style Fox body.
Yeah. Well, there's a rear-wheel drive Skyline in Australia now. Matux Racing's got an R33. Asaf's car has gone 639 with IRS, but it is an aftermarket subframe. But who cares? Still IRS.
Yeah.
And that's a rear-wheel drive RB. And same deal, sort of got an interior and a rad support. It's... So he's not coming this year, but he's dying to come next year, and he wants to go head to head with White Rice and all that sort of stuff, and
that's cool.
Have some RBs genuinely battling some 2Js. So, but in our RB versus 2J versus VR38 class, like I said, you can be entered in one of the ET categories. So you could have I could have my car entered in True Straight RH9, but I could also go in the RB versus 2J versus VR38 shootout, which is elimination based. But then if I get knocked out, I can come back around in the next round of True Straight RH9 and still try and get quickest ET. You could set your quickest ET during the elimination even. So Kimbo could win GTR Extreme and win that shootout at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's how we're doing it. And if we get enough demand, I'm happy to have 2 brackets of RB versus 2J versus VR38. So you might have an R35 that you don't want to do DCT, and you might go, hey, is there an 8-second bracket for RB versus 2J versus VR38? I'm yeah, there is. So it's all based on demand. If we only get 10 big cars that run low sixes that want to do it, well, then that's what it is. But if I get 40 people that go, hey, do a mid-7 to mid-8-second bracket for VR38 versus 2J versus RB shootout, and let's do that, I'll be yeah, sweet, let's go. So it just comes down to demand, really. We'll set the brackets and I guess what brackets we have based on what we get entry-wise.
Yeah, well, that's how the street car class I ran, you qualify.
Yeah.
32 cars qualify, and then 16, 16, 16. Cut it right there. You don't have to make you don't have to make the breakout before anybody shows up. You make
That's
it right after
you make
Q1
it right there.
or Q2.
And that's what will happen with 2J versus RB versus VR38. The only real rule is you have to be sub 10s. Like otherwise, it's not really.
Yeah.
No offense, worth it.
No, I mean of course people want to watch the best shit.
And roll racing, we're doing Elite 8, Quick 16, Street 32, and then Open. And the Open roll racing is like in Australia, where you just line up, whoever you get, you go back around, and if you lose, you're out. If you win, you have to go around straight away and go again. But the reason why Elite 8 is only 8 is the guys that go like 210 mile an hour, they can't do 12 rounds of racing, and they don't want to, right? And we don't want them to either. We want them to...
Yeah,
that's special, right? You don't want them going up against a guy that goes 110 mile an hour. Yeah. They've got to go up against similar cars. So there'll be Elite 8, Quick 16, Street 32, and then an open class for the roll racing. DCT will have same deal, like the DCT class, whether it's street or race, either one. There'll be like an Elite 8, then a Quick 16, then a Street 32. So if you go into DCT class as a 990, you're not going to line up against the guy that goes 760, right? He's going to be an Elite 8, Quick 16, Street 32. So that's just how it is. So the brackets will be done that way, and that way it's fair and easy no matter where you sit. And I just want people to feel like they can go and race. Just who cares? If your R35 goes 970, so therefore you have to go DCT Street, not stock turbo class in the open lanes, who cares? Yeah. We'll actually let you come back around. Don't think, oh shit, I got knocked out Saturday afternoon, I can't race Sunday. I go, yeah, you can. You can still come back out in that same group. You just keep running in like the section that's like the knocked out section, right? Like we don't want, and there's nothing worse than like going to an event, you fuck up round one and you're like, damn, I'm done, I'm going home. It's like Saturday lunchtime, I'm going home. But on the flip side of that, the rules will be you can run as long as we're not behind schedule. Yeah, that makes sense. Course. So if we are 2 hours behind, it's like, sorry guys, we don't have time for the knockouts. But the plan is like, no, if you get knocked out of that elimination, come back around and run again. But also remember, the guys that have been knocked out of eliminations are in the fast category. So it's not like we're letting like 12-second cars run again. Like we're letting cars that the crowd wants to see. If Cletus got knocked out in round one, as an event promoter, I'd be like, you want to come out every round still? Like, people want to see you run. Like,
yeah, that's where it gets tough, you know. Then other racers are griping about it, and
yeah, I know.
You know, when you play favorites a little bit,
we won't be, but it won't be like we let one car. It'll be the entire bracket. But on the provision that we're not running like super late. So I'm trying to put on a show. I want people to rock up and just go, I just couldn't see it all in a day. Like,
they did that at TX2K, they had exhibition runs where they had, what's his name's GTR run, that was GTR. Yeah, that one's a big, in quotes, GTR.
I actually had a heap of fun with him with that, like heaps of fun. Yeah. Just like
ragging on each other. Wherever he in that car is.
I don't know. And whatever I do know, I'm not talking about.
Yes. All right, well, we'll wrap this off there.
Actually, just going to ask you a question.
Okay.
You want to come? We should race. What's your PB now?
It's been 760s.
You'll smack me, so can you turn it down a little bit?
Well, it's never been 760s with the new ECU, so I don't really have a 760 tune-up anymore.
Right.
But, what is it, November?
Can you do like an 850 tune-up, and then we can go head-to-head?
850 tune-up? What do you want me to run it to the 1,000-foot? Come on, man.
So what you're saying is get my billet engine in the next week and turn it up?
So, for example, it went... This last weekend, I lifted and had the shootout at 1,000 feet. It went 8.0 at 155.
Right. Okay. Maybe we won't race.
With a light 60-foot. It was like a 123 60-foot. It's been 115s.
Yeah. Got to take mine from street card a little bit more serious, I think, by the time TX2K rolls around. So, But do you want to come? There's plenty of stuff for you to race.
I do want to come. November 15th to 17th. I'm trying to think of that date. I do want to come. The car is always subject to be blown up or broken, so that's always a big mystery for me, unfortunately. But yeah, I would love to try to make it, because even if I just fly out and leave the car or something, it seems like a good event to.
You let me know whatever you need.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring some microphones out.
Like I said, it's a good opportunity to. There is for the first time ever to go remote and talk to other. Like I can hook up and make sure you've got a podcast with whoever you want, basically.
Yeah.
Whoever you want it to be.
I should make the trek out.
Yeah, well, Hiroshi Tamura is going to. I didn't mention before actually. Hiroshi Tamura is going to be there. Who's like the godfather of GTR. He's coming. So like everyone that's into GTR, he does well, and he's a great ambassador.
Yeah.
He's actually still hardcore enthusiast. Like when he came to my office, he was looking through all the books and memorabilia for hours. Like he loves it. Really nice guy. And we've become good friends. I never thought I'd say I'm actually friends with, the father of modern GTR.
I always think like about the guy that does all those wide body kits. Like, doesn't speak a lick of English, right?
Sakamoto. He doesn't, but you can. The one thing you can understand he does say is no memory, no problem. So when you go out drinking with him, it's a good time. So Dan Rue's coming as well to stir things up and have some fun. So maybe we can let some what are those demonology? Maybe we'll just let him come out and they can race each other over and over again. Apparently, so
he needs to shoot a little higher than Dodges. He's always talking all this shit to Dodges. I'm like, bro, dude, they're Dodges. Yeah. You have a GTR.
Yeah.
Go for the Lambo, guys. Like, you know what I mean? It's a little kicking down, I would say.
Well, there's going to be a lot of Lambos there. Joe Tecker got a bunch of Lambos entering. Tony's got a couple. There's
I think
Dallas
every Lambo is twin turbo in the world.
I think
it feels like
well, they are in Texas.
It feels like it. I'm like, when I see a Lambo that's not twin turbo, half the time I'm like, oh wow, weird. I thought
Why'd
they were all twin turbo.
Why did you buy it? I actually randomly had a message from Giddy as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know he kind of vanished from GTR world for a little bit there. I know he's got Lambos and stuff like that and everything. And he messaged me out of the blue and goes, I won't say what car it was, but he's like, where does this car fit? And I'm like, ooh, that'd be cool. So there's being the first event, there's still, like I said, we've got fantastic support. Like Pennzoil presenting sponsor, so is Greddy, so is HKS. Obviously, I mentioned before that Tommy's a presenting sponsor from Garage S0, and then Cars from Japan from Australia. But yeah, like there's some shops are like all in, like supporting the first one. There are some shops that are like, we'll see how the first one goes, or they're close or whatever. But I think after World Cup, we'll probably get 100 phone calls on the Monday saying, can we come? But if you want to see a kangaroo and a GTR in the same place at the same time.
I've seen it. I've been to Australia.
Oh, I've
seen it.
Someone goes, why are you paying to have kangaroos? We get them for free at Sydney Dragway.
It was funny going with Kyle because Kyle in Australia was as excited for his first kangaroo as he was the 1,000th that we saw.
Yeah.
He was just as excited.
Oh, man. So, yeah. I actually got to talk to Kyle. I don't know if he's coming or not. I know TRC, I actually didn't mention before, TRC are coming and Javier's supporting the event heavily, getting his GTR ready. So, man, there's actually so many people that I could have spent an hour just listing like this shop, this guy, this person is coming. And
safe to say the event's rolling.
It's already being spoken about in the same circle as the events that I dreamed to attend in America. And I'm not saying that in like some way to kind of sit there saying, look how good we are. I'm actually genuinely I'm surprised. Like, it's in the same conversation as the I guess what I call the big three, the FL2K, World Cup and TX2K. So
live feeds?
There won't be a live feed at the first one.
Okay.
And the reason being for that is a good live stream costs an extreme amount of money. And I don't know if I'll have that money at the first one. So it's easier to go, you know what, first one we won't, because we want to see how everything unfolds, want to see how big it is, and then we can go from there. So
cool.
But the other thing is I have a YouTube channel that does all of our coverage of our event. So for me, it's like the YouTube channel getting all of that coverage is obviously a big deal, right? So I want people to watch it on our YouTube channel and they get to see the best stuff. I've not always liked live because of that reason, in a way. Like
it's tough to watch drag racing live.
It is.
There's a lot of downtime.
So for GTR Festival,
as much as I love drag racing, there's a lot of downtime.
And the live stream for GTR Festival would have to be constantly roaming, and that gets really expensive and difficult, and it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you rather watch like half an hour of all the best stuff on a YouTube channel later or to a TV quality? Like that's how I look at it. So.
Well, like what, Kyle does at TX2K where they do their daily stuff. Like that's like an hour video.
Yeah.
It encompasses the whole deal.
Yep. And the thing is, we're also making sure at our event is we want to, some events here charge media to attend. And I actually look at that, no offense to the guys that do, whatever your reason is yours. I look, and I get it, maybe it's to stop like the little guys a little bit, but to charge like 1320 or TRC or like Throttle or Hoonigan or to charge them for a media pass, I just kind of go, are you fucking joking? Like, I want to give as much media to the races as possible and to the event as possible globally. So my attitude is like, I haven't seen a YouTuber list like we have at our event at many events. Like only drag racing YouTubers seem to be at drag events. You don't see you know what I mean? You don't see the others. But my attitude is like they're important, and plus they're all my friends. So it's like I get my friends there.
Yeah, you get coverage.
You get coverage.
Funny,
like it's
I have media. I've never sought like a media pass. I feel like I could probably get away with it, like having a media pass at events, but I've just never even saw one out personally. I've had them with Kyle, when I was with him and working with him and stuff, but it's funny. I've always thought about that. I'm like, I could probably try to swing a media pass for some of these events.
But the thing is, Motivevideo does genuine event coverage.
Yeah,
so
you're
like
actual
for us,
media.
We actually are media, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just taking photos because I'm going to put them on my Facebook page with 1,000 followers and go,
whoa, I got 78,000 strong, dude.
Yeah.
My personal page.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. Like for me, media isn't just even how big your page is. It's actually how your media is used and portrayed. Are you actually portraying the event positively? Are you covering the event? Or are you selling photos to teams? Selling photos to teams makes you a vendor, not media, right? Yeah. Like you're a business, and that's fine. They're welcome too. They're a vendor.
They're an important part,
a massively important part. So,
but they don't need to. They make money differently than the other media. So
we do guaranteed media event. Actually, I didn't mention that earlier. Is like all our gold sponsors and above, we actually do a video pack and a photo pack for them. So they don't even need to bring their own media anymore.
That's cool.
We also do that because it means it's high quality. It's all in line with everything. And it's also, if you're paying $2,000 to be a gold sponsor and you're getting a video pack and a media pack, dude, that's the media's worth $2,000. So it makes it cost-wise for a sponsor is like no brainer.
Man, I've been dying for one of there's so many photographers that sell photos. I've been dying for one of them to sell videos of cars.
Yeah.
Like compile the passes.
Yeah.
Like photos are 10 years ago. Like
I know.
Compile the passes with a video.
But you know why they don't? It's because you actually need a fucking team who are switched on and get every run. Like you've got to be good. And it's the work ethic required to cover a whole event video-wise is hard. And the guys who do it, they know, right? But photo guys, a lot of them I've met are like, oh, wow, I tried video today. Fuck, that's hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man, it's hard work. So, like, it can be done. And you know what? Stuff it. We'll offer it at GTR Festival. There you go. Done.
Yeah.
If you want to buy the videos of all your runs, you can buy it at the end of the event. Done.
I mean, people would love that.
Yeah. We will. We'll do it. Yeah. Forget finding other media to do it. We'll just do it. We're a production company, so...
Yeah, you got the cameras?
Yeah, but I think we're at, now with that media pack and everything, I think we're at like 50 gold sponsors.
Oh, wow.
Like Vendor Alley is going to be a quarter of a mile long because we're not going to jam them all into one little spot. We're going to, we want every vendor to have 2 cars on display. So that way it's like vendors with cars. We want to make it so you walk down Vendor Alley and you're like, I'm going to be home. I'm not going to make it home for dinner tonight. Like it's...
Yeah.
That's how big it's going to be. So yeah, I think we're at about 60 or 70 vendors and sponsors in total and still taking them and still going. And I hope we get to 100 vendors because that would be sick.
That's freaking awesome, man. I'm pumped for this first event. I'm really excited. I'm allergic to commitment, though, so I have...
Nice wedding ring.
Yeah, exactly. I tend to be allergic to commitment. I was with her for 10 years. But I'm excited for you, man. You know, we've been friends for years, and it's cool to see this finally come to...
I appreciate you having me back, man, and letting me sit here and just... carry on about this event that
I know how excited you get about events and GTR, so it's always good to hear genuine excitement. And
I love it.
I'm excited. So guys, Texas, November 15th to 17th, coming up pretty soon, so go check it out. But otherwise, Motivevideo, it used to be DVD. Motivevideo, everywhere you find it, it'll be in the description. Go check out some of his videos where it's very crass about all things GTR and how 2Js suck and all the good things, but
except for that 2J versus RB block test video I did and admitted that the JZ block's better, but other than that, yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
Thanks
we'll
very
see
much,
you guys next time.
Sweet.